Hey, good evening, everybody. It's a wonderful Tuesday evening here in Central Florida, and I can tell you that we've got a great interview ahead of us. I've got West Coast Davengers, aka Dave W, is going to be on with us, and it's been a pretty busy day around here at CAF HQ. As you know, there's been a few interesting announcements, and I've got an interesting announcement. I've got a scoop for you right this minute before we even start the interview. Sorry, Dave, you're not going to be able to partake in this, but I was just contacted by Allison Sohn not 5 minutes ago, and she told me that she was doing a not attending San Diego Comic-Con art drop on comic art fans in Adam Hughes' CAF Gallery. So if I were you, and you're interested in Adam Hughes artwork, because I should have loaded up his gallery so I could see what was going to get dropped. But apparently the drop is happening right now, right at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So while you're listening to me talk to Dave in a second, I think you should head over there and see what's dropping. I told Maureen to go look, so she better be doing it too. All right, so let's get this interview started. Let me bring in the man of the hour.
Hey,
Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Man, you've got your shirt's a little bit more flashier than mine. You got a lot more color going on there. I like that.
I don't have I have to get people in so that to bring in the audience you need to bring in the flash.
Yeah, no, well, it's working for you. It's definitely working for you. So yeah, I've actually watched one of your sales streams the other day, and I thought it was pretty cool. I wish there was that much art. You spend 5 hours and you must sell like 200 or 300 books in that window, right? Or maybe even more.
This week I sold 3 short boxes and a stack, so I must have sold 500 books or something like that.
Unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, but it was cool. I loved it. I mean, it flowed. You had a guy in the chat that was like your spotter. I mean, I could take a few lessons from that and apply some things over to dueling dealers. Certainly, I loved like when you did the $5 book thing, and
Yeah.
And the guy had to make his comment in the chat before anybody else could, and that kind of takes the onus off of us in the studio. So I could see that working really well for some of the claim shows that we do, because just when it's just me and maybe 1 or 2 spotters that are not really interacting in the chat, it gets tough sometimes.
Yeah, and you got to have your dependable wrenches. That's what you assign them a wrench, and my Knights of the Wrench table are fantastic. And shout out to Tyler, who is the one who does a lot of the work. So it would be a mess without people like him.
Well, it was Tyler, I think, that kicked every one of those off. He did a very good job. As you can see in the chat right now, Kazra is the only wrench that's here. So, but he's a good wrench.
Yeah, I mean, technically, Kazra's a good wrench, except he's too good to be here tonight.
I don't know about that. But yes, it has been a very eventful day.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about that before we got started here. We announced that we raised some equity funding for the business, and we're not quite done, but it was really something that we've been working on for a very long time. And when everybody thinks about all the things that they know that we're working on, I can tell you that we have just as many things that you didn't know we've been working on over the since OAX. So it's been an interesting ride, to say the least. But yeah, and then we've got San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Yeah. Well, are you going?
No, I'm not. It's too big. I just wouldn't have the fun that I would have if I was at, say, OAX or Heroes.
Exactly. No, I know. That's honestly, if it wasn't when Mike Berkey said it was going to be his last show, I was like, all right, I'm going to go one more time, because if he's going to go, I know I get an exhibitor badge and it'll make things a little bit easier. But honestly, if he doesn't go back, I don't know. Unless there's something really important to do there, I don't like San Diego. It's just it's too overwhelming. It's too busy. I don't know. I mean, you do get to see some West Coasters that don't make it out to East Coast shows, which is nice. I mean, the socializing is good, but it costs too much. The hotels are too expensive.
Yeah, all the prices everything's raised up. But I did New York for years because I grew up there, and I used to go to the Javits Center all the time. When you grow up in a city with 8 million people, and then the cons are, like a quarter of that population are at the con, it's just like, yeah, okay, I have my fun.
Exactly.
You
Yep.
know?
No, that's I get it. Now, when I was watching your show the other day, I mean, there's lots of things we could talk about, but so you're doing this full time now. This is your main employment, not just the stream, but the comic book sales. I mean, you're all in. That's
All in. Yeah.
not doesn't make you nervous.
No, you know what? I waited for the other shoe to drop for about a year and a half after I started, and it didn't. And so now I'm comfortably realizing that it's not just the comics that I'm selling, like people, it's the trust.
Hmm.
It's the craziness that I bring to the table, the fun, the community, and like people I hope, what I sense from people is that not only do they want to buy comics, but they also want to support me specifically. And that's a big deal to me. I mean, I hope I earned the trust, but yeah, I'm all in. I don't care to have a backup plan because I'm just going to keep growing it until whatever the next thing is,
Hmm.
you know.
Now, do you do all your packing and shipping too? Because
Oh yeah.
a couple long boxes is a lot to pack.
Um, well, a little background on that. I worked in shipping for over the course of like 15 years of professional jobs. I did about 10 years in shipping. And
Really?
then during the pandemic, I became a mailman. So I know every facet of shipping that you could possibly think of, from like storage containers all the way to single, just one-off packages. I've done it all.
Damn. Well, then you don't need an assistant. But if you
No,
did, you can train them well.
I could. I could. I probably will have to hire somebody at some point down the line because it does become a little overwhelming. And it's it I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but there are things that will eventually I will have to have help with. But shipping's kind of relaxing to me. It's like doing a puzzle. It's like editing. When I do video and my podcast editing, like all that stuff kind of soothes the brain.
Hmm. I,
Um,
I get that. I used to do a lot of video editing when I started the channel, and
mhm.
I miss it because I don't have time to do as much as I did early on. But it was fun, creative. You like you say, you can kind of get in a different state and just focus on what you're doing and have fun with it and fix things. And yeah, I miss that.
Yeah.
But so I did want to, one thing I wasn't aware of, and I see it behind you right now. You had during your art sale or your art sale, I keep saying art sale, then during the comic book sale, the Jack Kirby book. What is that?
Okay, so
You hold it up. Okay.
look at
You
that.
know what it
Look at
is.
that.
You know
Look,
what I was gonna ask.
remember, you know that you're dealing with somebody that does this. So I'm ready. I'm ready with everything. So me, I had this idea after actually having Jim Rugg on my channel. We talked about
Hmm.
zines for a little bit because I'm really into the zine culture, always have been. And so I talked to my friend Andrew Post, he's in the chat. He's got a great, beautiful eye for stuff. If you check out his Instagram account, Andrew PCC. But I approached him because I started to notice that Kirby used to do these splash pages of faces, like these up close emotional faces that were, you would just kind of glaze over the fact that they were emotional and that there was different emotions on all the faces because we're always looking at Kirby's splash pages. Let me, like the Orion, even though there's metal in front of both of these faces, there's emotion on them. So I approached him with the idea of like, let's do a zine. And so long story short is like, he's a designer. I sent him books. He pulled books. We only took photographs of physical books and we put together this scene called The Many Faces of Jack Kirby. And it's the first time I've ever done anything like this. It's the first time I've ever published anything. Pretty sure it's the first time Andrew has published anything. And it's like, wow, I actually have this. It's all matte. It's all not glossy paper. So it feels like a comic.
Hmm.
It is an ode to not just Jack's work, not just Jack's craft, but the physical aspect of a comic book. So, and we're donating a portion of the proceeds to the museum and research center. They're $30 shipped, and I think I've got about 40 or so left, and then they're done, and we're going to do volume 2.
Oh, very cool.
So
Well,
I entered.
we did put the links into the show description so that if anybody's interested in getting one of those, they can email you through your website or
Yes.
contact you through your YouTube channel, etc.
Yeah. And it's zine culture, especially when it comes to original art, like they go hand in hand. If you look at, what those guys were doing in the late 60s and early 70s, and you look at guy that I absolutely love, Bernie Wrightson, like so much of his amazing art was published in fanzines. It wasn't even published in comics.
Mhm.
And so it's always been a culture, an aspect of all art culture that's fascinated me because it was part of music as well, fanzines and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what the Many Faces of Jack Kirby is.
Very, very cool. I'm a huge Jack Kirby fan, and when I saw that, I was very curious. I think that's awesome. So hopefully, you get to do a second one.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. We already started the research, and I've already compiled a huge stack of books. So,
well, that is cool. Now, are you going to try to get down to the Kirby exhibit?
I'd love to. I know it's in LA. I don't know when is it going away.
Well, I know Kazran knows because he's got the date memorized. I think it's late in August, if I'm not mistaken. So it's got at least another month to go.
Let's see if Kazra's kind enough to tell us in the chat.
He got to go. We made because we've been talking with museum and the estate about a few things, and so we were like, oh, it'd be cool to have the opportunity, and he was able to swing it and get out there for the show. And it's even earlier, so it's almost
wow,
dang, that sucks. I can't imagine that they put that much work into it and only have it up for that short period of time, for like 5 weeks maybe. Huh.
The next book, Many Nostrils of Gil Kane.
Yeah. Yes. We do love the way Gil draws the nostrils, but that's too bad. Such an amazing exhibit that I was kind of hoping it would be up for longer, but galleries have to turn things around every month, so I guess that's probably why. That's too bad.
If it was the Bay Area, I probably could swing it because I have friends that I could stay with there, but LA would just be like, I don't know. If I don't have to go to LA too much, I try not to.
Tyler says he's waiting on the Many Feet of Rob Liefeld. He'll be waiting a very long time for that book.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to happen. We are workshopping a couple other artists that we both love, but I'll keep those secret for now. Just I want to make them happen before I start talking about them.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I was a huge zine fan of myself. But who didn't try to do one when they were in middle school, high school? I mean, I worked on one with a friend of mine. Just distributed them around. We got in trouble. All that stuff. It was fun. Just kind of putting things together. But you're so right. I think like I was an aspiring artist when I was in my teens, and I remember guys starting up their own little fanzine type of books for D&D and stuff, right? And I remember being I don't even know how the hell I even found out about it, but I did some drawings that got published in it. It was cool. But yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
And it's funny because I have absolutely like zero artistic sense or design sense, but my head is full of ideas. And so with somebody like Andrew, it was a 50-50. Like we worked on this together 50-50. He started designing it. We did sequencing meetings over StreamYard and picked out what we wanted in there. And it felt for the first time like I really worked on something creatively with somebody, that it was like purely just something I never done before. I didn't have to teach myself because he was the designing part. And yeah, it just felt really good to do. And now the juices are flowing of like what to do next, especially with how good they feel in hand, and how good they came out.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you. The Many Pumpkin Heads of Jim Starlin.
All right, we're taking notes, Kazra. Maybe we'll have the chat vote on their favorite idea that Kazra's throwing out there.
Or the many Modocs of Kazra.
There's something there too. That's for sure. What Sydney say? I once helped put on 3 shows in 3 days. No, that's a lot of work. So, all right, well, let's talk about you and comic book art, though. I mean, clearly, being a comic book collector for a long time, and and seller and whatnot, you have a long tenure in just the field. But as far as art goes, I mean, kind of give me the full scoop. Like, when did you first get interested even in comics?
It's funny. With comics, it's so long ago that I don't
even
necessarily remember. It's somewhere in the like 8 or 9. I'm born in 1979, so right before the 90s hit, I start kind of really digging into comics and collecting them and going to. I grew up on Long Island, so we have a shop. Literally, you spit in any direction in the 80s, and there was a shop there. But I I know it was Wolverine #1, the Claremont, the full, the ongoing, 1988 would have been the first, would have been the first book that I fell in love with. Is that, when it's Logan and Patch, um, but I don't remember what the first book it is that I bought.
Mhm.
Um, but soon into it, it was McFarlane, and McFarlane was the gateway drug. McFarlane was the weed for my comics. Like I wouldn't have tried. We wouldn't be talking right now if it wasn't for my love of his art. um, and I think it was like Amazing Spider-Man 317 or 318. One of those. Um, that was my first glimpse into his Amazing Spider-Man stuff. Yeah, me and Sid are close, I think, in age, or I feel like the Wolverine #1, and I feel like my age group, specifically, like we were looking at that because we
Mhm.
knew who Wolverine was, and it's just like, what is this? What is this? But he's standing on a pile of bodies on the cover, and it's just like, holy shit. Um, but it was that range. It was 88, 89 into 90 got me fully um into comics. And so what is that, 30 years ago or
That's a
35
while.
years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. um and I never, honestly, like the comic art portion of it, and we can get to that, that was never, as a kid, you just don't know you could even own it. Even as an adult, at certain points I didn't know that I could just be like, oh, so instead of like going out every night and partying, I could just like put a bunch of money away and then buy this page or this cover, or
Mhm.
get a commission from this person. But I dabbled in it a little bit because um I bought a color guide for Amazing Spider-Man 350 at some point when I was probably like 13, and it was at a local show in Long Island, and I didn't even realize what a color guide was. I had no clue. I was like, this is the size of the comic card. Like, it wasn't, bigger than, it wasn't the size of a page, but I bought it anyway because it was cheap. It was like $35, and it was Eric Larson, and it had Dr. Doom and Spider-Man in it, because that's that double-sized issue that was Larson's last. And I sold it at some point because I'm an idiot. I didn't really hold on to things like I do now. But that was like, whoa, I got this Eric Larson thing, even though whoever colored it, I don't know who colored 350. Um, but
So that was the first, we can say that's technically the first OA purchase. So
that
that's
was, yeah, that was my first OA purchase. And then I'd gone to this awesome comic and card show at Hofstra University on Long Island. I think it was like 95, 96, and it was cool. Gordie Howe was there. Like, I'm a big hockey fan,
Mhm.
but Stephen Platt was there, and I'm a huge Splat fan. And so I went all 3 days, I believe. And I spent one of those days like being a table rat, like sitting at his table all day and just talking to him. And he was so nice. Like, here's this 14-year-old kid, or 15-year-old, however old it was. And he was just like talking to me all day. He did not at one point even hint, get out of here, kid. And so I got a sketch from him then, and that would probably be my second, like OA, um, anything that I owned. I was always into sketches because it was something that, like, I watched other people, back in the day, just go up to certain people. Oh, can you do a quick little sketch of somebody? Right.
Mhm.
And so I would get sketches. I definitely had some others. I can't remember, there was a lot of drinking in a 10-year period in my life that wiped away a lot of my memory. Um, but I never bought anything until my friend told me to buy, and this is my biggest, the one that got away. I bought a sometime, and whenever The Strange Talent of Luther Strode came out, I fell in love with that book, and I fell in love with Trad Moore, and I bought a page, and I had a page. I no longer have that page.
Sorry, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. But he was the first original art purchase I made that was a page, was a Tradmore
That's
page from
lovely.
the first miniseries. And then I had my friend Larry gifted me a Guy Davis BPRD page because I once the Hellboy movie came out, I started reading everything that I could, and that brought me into BPRD. So that also no longer exists in my collection, and it sucks, but you can't live in regret.
Do you have the plat?
No.
Oh man, figured you have to hold on to that one.
Well, luckily I now have a plat page, so I'm okay as that as being the thing that I own. I collected a lot of things. Like I'm a collector, but I've always been a seller. You know, I've been doing eBay. I've been doing eBay since '99, so I collected autographs in person, and I used to get a bunch of stuff signed, keep one, sell the rest. I had a huge collection of game used hockey sticks and hockey jerseys. Like anybody that played hockey in the like 90s, I owned a stick of that they used. It's all gone, but I had it, and I have a lot of memories from that. Now I'm in a more secure place in my life that I can buy stuff and just keep it, and
Sure.
you know, and so that's a nice thing. But yeah, my path through comics, though, if you want me to keep just going.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm enjoying it.
So I had an LCS called World of Fantasy in Deer Park that I was I was a store rat at a young age, hang out there a lot. But then Collector's Kingdom, also on Long Island, was a store I hung out at. Grasshopper Comics, which is still around today. It's been around for 30 years. And John Riley was the person that co-started Triumphant Comics, which didn't really work out for anybody. But if you remember Chromium Man, that was
I
a
do remember
product
the
in that
name.
shop.
I had to Google it to remind me what the character looked like.
But I like everybody talks about, high school, the end of high school, I stopped collecting. I stopped collecting for like maybe 2 years, and it was at the bust. It was the 96, 97 where comics were kind of awful. But then my friend Larry, same one who gifted me the Guy Davis page, he handed me Watchmen, Sandman, Sin City, like the good stuff. And it was like right there and then that I have not stopped reading comics since. Like there was, I just shifted the things that I wanted to read. And, I took breaks here and there from buying, but I never stopped reading. Like I've read all the Sin City books probably 10 times each. I've read, Sandman 5 times. I've read Watchmen, like these are things that I can just, okay, what do I want to do right now? I don't want to watch a movie. Okay, I'll just pick up a graphic novel and start reading.
Sure.
And it just increased my love of wanting to explore more. I talk about it a lot on my channel, especially when I do interviews. It's like music, right? Big Pearl Jam fan. And when I found out that, like, when I first started seeing them live and they play Bob O'Reilly, and I knew the song, but I didn't realize it was a Who song, I went back and I listened to the Who. And so it's like exploring the things that are inspired by the things you already love, or the things that inspire the people that create the things that you love. And that was the path through comics. And I didn't read a ton of Spawn after a while, but I sure as hell would pick up anything that that Neil Gaiman wrote that I hadn't read, or anything that Miller had written or drawn that I hadn't read. And I would just explore that further. And then even, in the more recent years, it's just like exploring things that, like fanzines, like we were talking about, like trying to find the artwork that, was published somewhere, but it was only published in 500 copies were printed. Because that fascinates me, because it's vast once you go really digging deep to comics. And then I worked in the comics industry for a very short time. It was pretty traumatic working. It was a very short-lived job, but I realized that I never wanted to work for somebody in the comics industry like that again.
Don't want to talk about that.
I mean, look, it was the CBLDF, and it was
Okay.
terrible. But it set me on the path that I'm on today. But it definitely soured comics for me for a good year and a half.
I get it.
Yeah.
But that probably brought you in proximity to seeing some more originals at than you may have previous to that, right? Because
Yes.
The number of charity auctions that they held, and artists that they would have at their booths at shows. I mean, they were always very active When
Mhm.
I was getting into comic art collecting in the late '90s. I only ever picked up anything at their auctions, but no, I did. I did pick up a piece once from one of their auctions, but I get it. So
Yeah.
so, but
Well,
after that, you were out of the business and not working and for anybody after that.
so I will say this. I did also have some great experiences. Every artist I worked with and talked to through CBLDF was amazing.
Hmm.
But I was so soured. Let me tell you this. This is because it burns me up inside a little bit. They did the first ever, it was like some cartoonist festival that was over in Europe. And they brought it to Huntington Beach, California for the first time ever. I sat with people like Gilbert and Jaime. I sat with Brubaker and Sean Phillips and did signings with them. And like they were all great. And I was just like, it was like shell shock though. I was in
Sure.
such a terrible place mentally while I was there. Um, I got to sit with Klaus for an hour and a half. And I just like, it's in hindsight, it's great. I wish that had happened to me last year. Like I would be in such a better place. But yeah, I got to see some great art, make some connections. I got friendly with Ryan Otley, and I got to talk through to Kevin Eastman via email and stuff. But after that, it was like shortly after that, the pandemic hit, and my old event job that I would do freelance when I wanted to, everything ended, became a mailman. I picked up Silver Surfer Black, and I picked up Spider-Man Life Story. And that was the first new comics I had read in about 2 years. And I fell head over heels back in love with comics with those two books. And from there, it was just like, okay, I'm going to start buying books again, and started buying collections, and I started going to garage sales, and I started doing, and next thing I knew it, I was like, oh my God, I've like 50,000 comics now. And then I had an inventory, and I went on YouTube and I started doing that, and I started talking to the camera, and would you know, like a bunch of people listened, and then more people listened. And then here we are. But in that, it's about 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to look into buying some art. I've been collecting art, and there's one piece in there it's the Dave Correa piece. That one's like old. It's like 15 years old at that point. So
Hmm.
I was buying more illustrative, illustration. But then I was like, I'm going to start looking into buying original art. And I had, do you remember when the Society of Illustrators was Mocha? You know,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, yeah.
so when they did the McFarlane retrospective, whenever it's got to be like 15 years ago. They had some originals there, and I got my first taste of like seeing it in person and being like, I want to own one of those one day. Um, Not knowing that I could, and I have two now. Well, three technically. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting journey, and I never thought I could start buying art in the way that I have been in the last like year and a half, 2 years. And it interests me so much because I love art. I love talking to artists. I love learning about art. I love watching people draw. I have literally, it was 2006. Oh my God.
I was trying to
Uh,
Google it and I couldn't get it.
yeah. Time is so weird. It's a flat circle, as Russ Cole taught us in True Detective. Um, but yeah, I didn't know I could start buying stuff. And then all of a sudden I started buying stuff. But I've always enjoyed being around it because it fascinates me. It's like it's the thing that I've never been able to do. Not an illustrator,
Mhm.
but I'm fascinated by everything around it. So yeah, I don't know. I just danced around everything right there.
No, no. Well, you did bounce around a bit, but that's cool. Yeah, Kessler says he was there in 2006 as well. That's why he remembers it.
Wow. I can't
I
believe
just
it was
remember being in the
almost 20 years
news.
ago.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say CAF was only 3 years old at that point. So, and Sydney mentioned your favorite motto to live by.
That's right. See Todd by Todd. And that's the thing, like I will stay true to that. I have my whole life. And the first episode I ever shot for my channel, I said it on there. And it's just kind of like like with all art, everybody has that gateway, right? They have that person that they followed and that got them into so much else. And that's what it is for me. Like at that time, and a lot of the old school guys that are into the Copper Age, the Marvel, the house style, they were turned off by McFarlane.
Right.
And it was the opposite for me. It's the same thing with the Seattle, music. I heard Nirvana and I heard Pearl Jam, and I threw away my MC Hammer, and I put Appetite for Destruction. I was like, you can go over here now. I still love Guns N' Roses, but it was McFarlane, and it was those bands that got me into the things that I'm into now. They just, out of pure curiosity of like, what's this and what's this and what, yeah. I don't like stagnation. So I always try to find new things.
Well, with the art you're collecting now, I mean, and you kind of mentioned this within the last 2 years, you're holding on to certain things now when you get them. I mean, do you view your art collection today more differently than 15 years ago? With the pieces you're buying then. I mean, now when you buy today, is it buying because you're thinking about it as something for your permanent collection, or I mean, I'm sure you're a reseller, so you have to sometimes see artwork you want to buy to resell. But
I to answer that both ways, most of the art that I buy is for me, and is for me to just keep until maybe I get bored of it or I see something that I want to fund. Only very recently did I buy specifically a couple of lots for resale. It was Jason Pollan, who had passed away during COVID. He was a New York artist right before COVID. His estate auctioned off all of his stuff maybe like 2 months ago. There was a Bruce Timm lot of like 8 pieces, and there was a Jeff Darrow lot of like 10 pieces, and I bought it. And I bought it with the intention to sell all but 2 of each, keep 2 Timms, keep 2 Darrows, and then just sell the rest. It is something that I'd like to do in the future, but yeah, I get way too attached to this stuff as soon as I'm holding it, which is fine. I use the comics to fund the art, and I just have to be careful because there are days where I'm just like, screw it, and just hit that click that button, and it's like, oh, I just bid 10. Oh.
Yeah, I do understand that. I put a few bids on an upcoming auction myself, where I was like, all right, I'm going to try, and then I was the high bidder. I just figured I'm pushing the bid up,
Right.
Like, all right, well, I'm committed now. I may end up with this when I get back from San Diego. You never know.
Yeah. It's. I mean, you were there at Heroes, and that Daniel Warren Johnson painting. I was about to bid 10 on it, and then it went to 11. I was like, okay, I gotta stop, because I don't have the money that some of these people have. I just have the overzealousness sometimes.
Right. Well,
I
mean, it kind of comes with the territory. We're fans. We are fanatics. I mean, I think that sometimes we lose our willpower, and and that's sometimes can be dangerous. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it usually nets you something that you really are happy with. But you can regret it the day after a little bit. I know one of the guys in the chat, he'll buy a piece of art for his wife like every other month to kind of keep her happy while he spends his thousands per month on his own collection. But we all have our own ways of kind of justifying crazy purchases every now and again.
I mean, I sometimes I justify it as I can get hit by a train tomorrow. Even though there's no train near my house, I still could get hit by a train tomorrow, and that'll be it.
Yep.
So I could find a sugar mama. Ooh, a cannoli. Nick, get me a cannoli. Please.
Number one Marvel fan says loves the Piscor thing piece in the Mannix Galactus. So we're going to see both of those pieces.
Yes.
As part of our conversation here. I do as well. And I'll save it. But yeah, the Piscor piece, I'll be honest, when I saw it, I was like, holy crap, I would have loved to.
You actually unknowingly, you and Kazra actually have a part in that story when I tell it.
Good. Well, I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is one of the earlier pieces we'll talk about. Um,
Oh
but
wait, we were going in that order?
well, I think you did number them. You want me to go? You want me to go in reverse order?
Number one was supposed to be the last piece.
Ah, okay, that's
I'm
cool.
sorry.
I numbered them as you you numbered the images when they came over.
Yeah, so I was going like counting down from 16 to 1 instead of 1 to 16. So yeah, just go in reverse order and we're good.
I don't mind. I got no problem with that. So it's the
Okay.
second to last piece we're going to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. Well, but it also made sense what I thought was the number one because I figured that was like set the tone. But no, we're good here. So so other than well, I want to talk a little bit now, about like you said, 2 years ago you started the live stream stuff. I mean, obviously we
Mhm.
have a lot in common in that regard, and I think that
Yeah.
we've both kind of seen the same kind of success. Same good core group of people who love to listen to what we have to say and are interested when we do sales shows and all that too. I mean, it's been a fun ride for me, and it's really fun to see somebody else who's kind of gotten to experience that same thing. I mean, I would never have, envisioned myself doing this. I was pretty shy and introverted, 20
Mhm.
years ago. So, so this is all new, but it's fun, to be able to have those opportunities. And I have to imagine you probably feel pretty lucky to be in your position too.
Yeah, and I learned, like there were times where I just kind of turn on the TV and watch you guys and watch you doing what you're doing and just kind of like not comment, just watch like a almost like a mental research. And my biggest inspiration for my channel comes from kayfabe.
Mm.
And I watch kayfabe religiously for 4 years every morning, coffee and kayfabe. And I just realized like once I started talking and getting in front of the camera, I realized like my brain just kind of opened up. Like all this stuff, like you retained it, and you know I I've long felt, and I never, most of my friends and my family I never vocalized this to them, but I long felt that I belonged in front of a camera because I'm naturally enjoy entertaining people and being, if you can take my brand of humor and craziness, then you're in for the ride, and I'm
Mhm.
not stopping. But yeah, I started it. My friend Dave Korea kind of helped me with editing, lighting tips and stuff like that, and I had a couple other friends that just like chimed in, sent me messages like, "Hey, I watched your video. Do this. Try this." But yeah, I think a lot of people enjoy going along with me to garage sales and flea markets, and then the interviews was just like it was a thing that I was like, I can reach out to people and see if this works. And I hate the term that has come around in the last 10 years, alpha male, but I consider myself an alpha conversationalist.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I wish I felt more alpha conversationalist sometimes, but I kind of just I feel like I learn something in every conversation that I have
Mhm.
with somebody, and so I feel like I'm more of a good listener, and I'm not the best interviewer, but I think that you need to, it's good to kind of be able to do both things, and so I enjoy that because I think the thing that I get the most joy out of is people getting to tell their stories because
Yes.
again you're always learning something. There's a similarity between everybody when you're doing an interview. I think at least if you're talking to a collector, even if you're talking to artists, right? I mean they kind of all had the same dream one way or another. They just have a little different path to getting to their professional career or something, but you still it's cool. I think giving people the opportunity to to talk about themselves because it's
Mhm.
important. We all have great stories, or at least we feel they're great stories, and I think by and large, most of our peers are going to feel the same way too. That's kind of the one of the biggest joys I get out of doing these shows is just that, man. I mean, it's fun. I mean,
It
I've watched your shows, but I still don't know a lot about you, and so this is our opportunity to get to know one another.
well, and that's the thing. It's like it's easy to for me to have a conversation, but I enjoy that same thing. Like, let me lead you right here, and I'm gonna let you tell it because
Hmm.
I'd rather listen than I have a podcast. I have another podcast besides this that I just yap, and that's where I get my yap out. Whereas when I'm having somebody on the channel, like two of the guys that really it turned into just a great conversation. It was Mafood and Allred, and you know them both. The conversation went where it went, and with the Larson interviews, I know he wants to talk about comics. Like I know the kind of things he likes to talk about, and whatever he ended up saying besides that was super interesting. And then with Todd, because I do a lot of research, and I don't know what your process is for research on interviews, but I will spend 2 to 3 days just binging interviews of the people that that are available, so that I can try and ask questions that haven't been asked.
Right.
And because Todd has his Todd spiels, I just went outside that, and from the fans' perspective, and try to at least ask intelligent things. I let him do what he does, but try and tell stories that we haven't heard, like the story he told about the Spawn cover almost getting demolished, the framed original painting. Like, I've never heard him talk about that before. And there are guys that are still on my wish list, and there are guys that unfortunately are no longer with us that I would love to have talked to. But my goal, if someone was asked me what my goal is for the channel, is just to talk to every single comic creator that I've ever wanted to talk to. And that's it. I'd be done with that.
I know. Well, we're fortunate to be in what we're doing and have those opportunities. I again, Allred's probably been one of my most fun interviews that I've gotten to do, and I've had him on a few times. I mean, he's a pleasure. I miss the fact that if he was going to OAX, I know that we would have had him on at least once or twice already. I'm missing those conversations. I feel like I've got to give Mike a reason just to come on the channel because I enjoyed it. I think the audience loves to kind of get in the weeds with him because he's such a cool guy, and you don't know where he's going to take the conversation ever.
And he is the proof of the power of positivity is really an amazing thing. Like, I just love how positive he is. Even when we were talking about stuff that was like the way he'd talk about something that he didn't like was just like, if I don't like it, I'm not going to waste my energy on it. Mm-hmm. And he's such a nerd, and the music, movies, all the the stuff that you can talk. Like, I want to go to take a drive down to Eugene and just spend the weekend with him, like watching movies, and listening to Bowie.
Are you good at karaoke? Because I think that's one of the things. Oh well, I think you'd have an open invitation at his house. I think it's every Friday night at the Aura. It's it's karaoke for everybody on the street or something like that.
I do want to address street food is good. Will I ever go to Tokyo Comic Con? My goal actually is to go to Tokyo this year, November. That's a low key, not a low key. That's just a goal for this year. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I didn't. My family went to Tokyo last year for Pokemon. I did not get to go, but I've always wanted to go to Tokyo. It's like the one of all the places on the earth that I want to go to. I've always wanted to go there. So very jealous. But my one daughter said she would be happy to go back because she had such a great time. She's 21 now. So hopefully awesome. In the next few years we'll make a trip out there for a week because I just always wanted to go. And
I've got. Are you familiar with Japan Book Hunter? I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh.
Sean runs a store, a business, and a YouTube channel, and he hunts rare manga and resells it. And most of his customer base is outside this country or outside Japan. And he's become a friend, and he basically is my kindred soul. He does exactly what I do, except in Japan, and he's from Washington too. So the goal is I'm going to go out there in November. He's going to show me around. I'll go hunt manga, and I want to learn. I want to learn more and more about manga because I've had this conversation with Kazra. I think that there's a big future in original art if you can find manga original art, even though they do kind of hold it close to the vest there. I think there's a huge future in that collecting market, and there's so much of it. I mean, when you think about the output of a mangaka, it's insane, and they're not coming for me. It is just a thing I want to explore, and I've read a lot of manga in the last year. I'm trying to learn more. Comics as a whole It's not just us here in the the US. There are lots of other countries and cultures that celebrate the medium. I mean, Japan obviously celebrates the medium more than anybody on the planet. But yeah, I want to explore, and I want to go to Japan.
Well, I'll expect a report when you come back, whenever you make that trip.
Definitely,
It's
definitely.
yeah, it's an area we would love to get more involved with. There's certainly
Hmm.
not a lot of that artwork on CAF. It comes up so rarely. I mean, every once in a while. I mean, I know there's been some exhibits in Europe, but again, there's just not a lot out there. And I think because how difficult it is to kind of get your hands on it, to even have it in a museum exhibit, it just kind of puts people off from even trying to embrace the medium and and put on shows
Yeah,
in the U.S. and whatnot. I mean, we need we could use more exposure to it in the States some way. So, and not just buying the books.
sure. I mean, I know last year at San Diego, Junji Ito had an exhibit up, and he's got one up in Tokyo right now. And then Shintaro Kago, he's done a bunch with Gallery Nucleus.
Hmm.
Um, I hesitated on buying a piece, and I don't know why, but I should. Um, but yeah, I it's something I want to explore. And I was in the UK last year, and I went to every comic store almost in Scotland and everyone in London, and um, obviously the UK comic scene is maybe more superior to any other comic scene, especially with the talent that's come out of there. But there, I bought some original art while I was out there too, and so I think the more I look outside of the US, the more I'm going to learn, and I can take back with me and share with
Hmm.
people, because that's what it's all about, right? Like, it's you can own it, but it's nice to be able to share the knowledge and share the experiences with people.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start sharing some of your art? I think there's,
Sure.
we got a few number, how many was it? 19-ish? I don't know. We got a lot. We have a fair number of pieces to look at. Some of them
Sure.
are related, but it's very, I wasn't quite sure what you were going to pick, but yeah, you
I
got a
went
really
with the things that have stories or and like, emotional or just cool stories, but an emotional connection definitely helps.
all right. Well,
So,
we are counting down, not up
yes.
tonight.
Yes, we're counting down, right? We're going as Casro was so nice to point out. It's NASA Mel.
Oh yeah,
NASA
I
Mel.
saw that the NASA counting. Okay,
Yeah.
but we're starting with 16. We're not going.
Yes.
It's not a 10-1 here. So George Perez, and then this looks like it's in a sketchbook.
Yes, yes. I started a sketchbook in 2010. My old event job, we used to do live and silent auctions, and we did a silent auction for the Hero Initiative at, I guess it was MegaCon. I don't know if it was called MegaCon then, but it was in Orlando, 2010, and we stationed ourselves at the Hero Initiative booth for 3 days, 4 days, and Perez was there doing sketches. You donate, you enter a lottery, you donate. It's $100, and so he's like, Dave, what do you? I was standing there all weekend. He's like, Dave, what do you want? I'm like, I was that type of person. I was like, yeah, let's do Fin Fang Foom. And he's like, he looked at me, he gave me a look because we had a bunch of conversations over the weekend, so he could give me that look. He's like, you got to go find the JLA Avengers because I don't remember what he looks like. So I run around on the floor, I pick up the books, I give them to him, and he does this. And like, everybody that had met George, it's the same thing. He was the sweetest, nicest dude, friendly as could be. And like, this is the only piece of art I ever owned of his, and it's the first page in my sketchbook. And that weekend also has a very big significance with a friendship of mine that we're going to talk about in a little bit, because one of the other pieces is connected to a person I met and am still friends with since that weekend.
Oh, very cool. I might have been to that auction because I love going to MegaCon. I take my son to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a good time. We did Universal afterwards. Um, and I've got pictures of McLaughlin,
Yeah,
running the auction at MegaCon.
good old
So
Jim. Yeah,
might
nice
have been
guy.
the same period. But like you, everybody who met Perez walked away, a better person. Just
Yes,
there was
yes.
nobody who was more positive, more happy. you picture what an artist or a comic book artist might be like, and Perez is like not the guy you think.
Yeah.
He would be, because he was just a I want to say a ray of sunshine, but
He really was. Yeah. Like,
but he was, right. I mean, every time
wore
I got
those
to lunch
Hawaiian
with him
shirts.
once, same thing. I did a Hero Initiative auction for a lunch thing, and won it. And he did a sketch, 2-character sketch for my son, and but it was awesome just hanging out with him. He picks up the tab because it's a hero thing, and it was like one of the best hours of my life.
Yeah,
So
it's such a
entertaining.
sweet dude. Such a sweet dude. But yeah, I think I still would request Fin Fang from him if it was today.
Yeah, I don't think he would have gotten asked for that too often.
No. And literally, I think it's on like 2 pages in that book, and that's it.
Now we kind of mentioned this one earlier, but when the whole Marvel fan was saying his favorites, you've got a Mannix.
Yeah, that was peer pressure from Dinesh, and I welcome that peer pressure because he's like, did you see Mannix? And I think I had walked by and I looked because his pieces were literally the brightest things at OAX. Like, you could have shut the lights off completely and Mannix's pieces would have been fully on display and everybody would have seen it. And so I walk over with Dinesh to Mannix, and we talked, and I met him and I met Jiggy, and I said, yeah, Galactus, let's do Galactus. And you're like, what size? I'm like, whatever the biggest size is. And they looked at it, I was like, yeah, just I don't care what it costs. And this is what I got. And it's so dope. Like, I want to have Mannix on the show. I want to, I want to get to know him a bit. But when I first saw this, and I still feel this, it's like, this is a person that watched a lot of Simpsons when they were growing up, and it's even if it's like, it may be just the yellow skin that leads me, but it's still the way that it feels like I want to see Mannix's comic world cartoon. That's what I want, and it's just such a beautiful piece, and the colors are, I wish I did psychedelics still, because I would stare at this piece for 10 hours.
Yeah, you definitely could. I mean, he's an amazing guy. I mean, talent wise, he's just, there's just nobody else like him.
Yeah.
His style is unique. His approach to color, stands out. And then just his background choices in these pieces, like this one that he's been doing. It's like a mix of, I don't know, some postmodern artists, like, I don't
geometry.
know. Yes, exactly. It's just so cool. I don't know. My brain doesn't think that way. I was never good with color. And then you see a guy who can do stuff like this that just seemingly shouldn't work, and yet it works so well. I mean, I wouldn't have the balls to put pink on anything that I was painting, and then he puts it in here and it looks, I want more pink.
Seriously. I mean, his, and we recently saw that somebody animated his Wolverine, but what Timothy just said, like, let's do the Marvel universe according to Mannix. And I just spoke to Jiggy like a week and a half ago. I'd spoken to Mannix and I asked him, because he's doing a lot of those cover homages, and I asked him about a specific one. I'm not going to say what it is, but I asked him about a specific one, if he's done it yet, and he said no, that would be great. So I hit up Jiggy like a week and a half ago and I said, let's pull the trigger on it. So when it's done, I'll share it. But I want to be the one person to have asked him to do this cover homage.
Well, he's been killing it with these cover recreations that he's been working on lately. I know I think they posted something on their socials today or yesterday that they're bringing to San Diego.
Yes,
all these little sketch cards.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. I'm not even going to bother trying to go over there, because they're all going to be gone by the first. I mean, they might. Well, Jiggy's probably good. He won't sell before the hall opens, but they're going to be all gone on preview night.
There's like anything that I mean, there's 2 people at, like, we know that DWJ sketches, those paintings are going to be gone in 3 seconds, and Mannix's cards are going to be gone in 3 seconds. But good for both of them,
Yes, exactly. And Nick Ferrucci says the Thundercats 7 cover.
I saw it today.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. Nick, I got to be getting one of those. I got to get myself at least one of those. Yeah, I totally got to buy one.
Alberto's a very happy camper. I remember when when he bought that art, everybody was saying we should talk to Dynamite and see if they might
Yeah.
make that into a cover. And how cool is that? I think we can honestly say that was the first piece of art sold on the Comic Art Live channel that eventually became published. I think
Yeah.
that's
And
awesome.
you know what? Like, if this opens a new door for Mannix, like when people start seeing that cover and it is unlike anything else that's going to be published on a Thundercats cover, like, more power to Mannix, and I hope all the success comes his way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember at OAX, he and Mike Allred loved his work and went over and was talking with him. It was just cool to see that kind of thing, where artists got to kind of compliment one another. And yeah, I'm sure that had to make Mannix's,
Right?
that was the only thing that came out of that show was getting to have Mike Allred kind of gush about how much he liked his work. I mean, shoot, that was awesome to see. What is Arrow says? Need to go check out his work. Such a cool piece. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
haven't, you can see some of Mannix's work over at nextcomicart.com. That's his rep, and easy to find Mannix on either Instagram or Facebook as well. Just seeing stuff he does a lot of work in process images.
Yeah.
That he shares, but fantastic guy, and if you're going to San Diego, you can see him there.
That's right.
All right, now.
Oh yeah.
A little bit of Eastman and Laird.
Yeah. So this piece is wild to me because I've had, as soon as I put it up on CAF, not only did I talk to the original owner of it, but like four people had reached out and said, oh, I had a chance to buy this, or I had this. This art has traded hands a bunch. And I bought it in a store that I kind of worked with, helping them out with comics in Tacoma. And it came from one of their customers that consigned it with them. And it's a painted piece. From what I understand, it's Blue Line maybe or something like it, but the paints are original. It was originally sold at an in-store in Worcester, Mass in 85 or 84. And then it was 85. And then the guy brought it to a different convention to get it signed who owned it. But this piece originates from Worcester. The thing is, this is a t-shirt that this image is a t-shirt that Eastman sells on his website. Obviously, I'm a Turtles fan. I grew up watching the cartoon. It was less than 5 years old when the comic came out, so I wasn't reading the comic, but the Archie comic and the cartoon got me into Turtles. And it's Eastman and Laird. There's nothing I can say that will add to the fact that they're two of the most important people to ever do anything in the world of comics. And I had the opportunity to buy this, and I said, fuck yeah.
I don't blame you. I once owned a piece by Eastman and Laird, a character piece, and I regret to this day ever selling it, because it's, I probably had it for 3 or 4 years and sold it 12, 13 years ago, thinking I could easily get another one. Well, I'm just going to sell this one because somebody asked, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah. And I've never seen a piece quite like it since. And it was colored too. It was, probably about the same size as this one, but this is awesome. It doesn't matter if it's, if it was somehow blue lined. I mean, just the idea that they both had a hand in coloring it, you got them both to sign it. I mean, that's so cool.
Yes. And it's, you don't see too many early pieces of theirs out for sale. So I know that, like, the only way I'd ever sell this is if I found something equally as cool, or I got my hands on a page in the first like 10 issues or whatever, or 7 issues, which is very unlikely. But I love the Turtles. I love everything about what they also represent as creators, their paths, whether it's Eastman to Tundra and beyond, as we were talking about his art collection, or Laird and the Xeric benefit. You're talking about 2 Rushmore guys in the world of comics. And so it represents a lot to me in just the history aspect.
Well, that's a fabulous piece to have, and it's cool that the original owner reached out to give you some of the history on it.
Well, it's funny. I reached out to the owner. You know how I found him? With a little website called Comic Art Fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I found him. I don't remember how I did it. But it took me like an hour to figure out who originally owned this piece.
Well, that's awesome. Comic Art Live is bringing collectors together for 21 years.
Yeah.
Little did I know what the heck that thing was going to do when we built it. But
Right.
yeah, that's totally cool, man. Did you know that we have an app coming out?
Oh yeah,
Did you?
yeah. I'm excited to jump on board to it whenever it's public or whenever I get that beta testing invite.
Well, we did actually send out. We had some people like some strategic picks. You know, people who were
Hmm.
going to be at San Diego that we'd be able to talk with, and who we know would
That's a
probably
smart
be
idea.
showing it off. So we today was a big day, and everything's gone. You know, I got like maybe one bug report. You know, that may or may not be a bug. Who knows? But other than that, everybody's like thrilled. So that was
Cool.
positive. I haven't gotten all the feedback yet, but it is going to change everything. You're gonna be liking a lot more artwork. I have a feeling.
Yes, and I'll
And
be able.
yeah, and I'll tell you this one thing, because you're not a premium member, but
No.
in the app you're able to watch other galleries, which is a premium member feature only on the website. But in the app, we're making it available to everybody, because when you watch people's galleries, you're basically able to curate like what you want to see on the main page you go to. So if you watch me or Kazra or whatever, that initial feed is going to just show you artwork that we've been posting.
Hmm.
So it's just to me, it's always been one of the cooler things about CAF, and the app I think is going to end up being a lot about like personalization and things that you can do to kind of make CAF be exactly what you want. Whereas today you have to kind of work at it. The app
Yeah.
the app is cool, and it'll teach us what we need to do when we redesign the website. But yeah, we're hoping for a late August launch. So
Sweet. And it'll be dangerous when I'm able to message somebody while I'm in bed about maybe buying their Todd McFarlane page or whatever.
that's the thing. I've told people that I literally, I'm going to bed at night, I'm like thumbing through, looking at stuff, and I never could do that before.
Yeah.
So it's a new experience. But let's see. Next up, we have a painting, and I think
Yes.
by Dave
Yes.
Correa.
Yes. So Dave is 50% of the reason why West Coast Davengers exists. He's the other Dave when we started this, where it was like just us showing off our comic finds. I met Dave through Cotton Candy Machine, Tara McPherson's gallery in Brooklyn. He used to be part of Zero Friends, or used to run Zero Friends with Alex Pardee, and it's how I met Ray Shack and Skinner and Matt Ritchie and all those guys. So I got into their art before I was buying comic art. And this piece was for a Sundance Festival art show that they did called Scum Dance. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, obviously a big Vader fan. And I'd never seen a single person put out a painting or an image of Vader without his mask on. Like such an iconic moment of Luke seeing his father for the first time face to face. And so I own a bunch of Dave's paintings and a lot of his art, but this one to me represents not just like a beautiful piece of art, but it's our friendship. And we in the early stages of the pandemic, like I think it was 2020, we went on a comic book road trip. I flew down to the Bay Area, and then we drove up to Seattle, hitting every comic book store and antique mall that we could in 4 days or whatever, 3 days. And that's where we came up with the name the West Coast Avengers, and literally does not, exist without both of us kind of doing this thing. And so I wanted, this is one of my, it's literally just to my right on the wall, and it's one of my favorite pieces of art that I own, and it has such a personal significance to me. And yes, that is a harmonica holder.
Oh man, well that's cool. I mean, it's not the only piece by Dave that you own.
No. I like 3 or 4 paintings and then a whole bunch of other stuff.
That's awesome.
And he's one of my favorite artists. Like I didn't know him before. Like I knew his art before I knew him, and he's just we're 2 Daves in the same pod or something. I don't know.
Well,
But yeah.
I'm kind of familiar. I've seen some of his stuff before, but all right, now I'm really familiar. I had to Google it to see why I've seen some of his work in the past. But yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, and he's gotten into. I mean, like literally, I remember the first day we were talking about. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to start learning to sculpt," and he's doing sculpts and stuff. And he's at San Diego this weekend with Pardee with Alex. They've had that table together for I don't know, almost 2 decades at this point. And so, if you don't know Dave Cree, you don't know Alex Pardee or Wayshak, well, everybody knows Wayshak now. That's a CAF fight, but those guys are just some of the most amazing artists in the game.
Oh, very cool. I'll have to see if I can swing by there. Now, let's see. Next up is a published piece.
Yeah.
Very cool one. I mean, this is awesome, man.
Yeah.
This page.
Yeah. This, most kids that grew up in the early 90s, late 80s, their Silver Surfer was Ron Lim. And he was my surfer, but more so, with the Infinity Gauntlet, this is the second appearance of the Gauntlet. I became a huge fan of Thanos and Mephisto, or Mephisto and Thanos, as some people say. And I just loved the energy, and I always loved his cartooning. And this page came up on, I think it was on Comic Link. I can't remember. They're all the same. It's just one big auction site. And I was like, I need to have this. Like this moment from this book sticks out in my mind more than any other moment in a surfer book. There you go, Ron Lim's. That's right, Trip. He's, by the way, that's the knight. That is the head of the wrench table right there. But this moment sticks out so much because he tries to take the gauntlet off Thanos, and the gauntlet is just like, nah, and just starts choking out Mephisto. And I had to have this page, and I've been trying to get one of the Thanos Quest pages for the last year, and they always just go a little bit too high for me. But this one was just, I had to have it. And I met Ron, and I got it signed at Heroes Con, and I'm hoping that I can get him on the channel. One of the nicest guys in comics, period.
Well, oh no, I completely agree. I'm a huge fan, and I love this page. It's a lot of the surfer books, they do focus a lot on the main character, as they should. But I love this one, man. I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah, and narrating his own death. I mean, I hope to achieve that whenever it is. Like, I hope my death comes in a Hollywood moment where I'm just like, oh my God, I've lived a good life, but I'm not ready to go. Whatever.
See if everybody else could have seen you choking yourself right there.
Yeah.
I couldn't hide the art fast enough, but no, that's an incredible page. I love it. Yeah, and I love this next piece too. So
yes.
Who doesn't love Wayshak? I mean, he's been doing great work for so long, and he's really coming into his own. People are finally taking notice of how talented he is. This thing's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, this was a purchase at Heroes. It was a variant cover for Amory Wars 2. And yeah, me and Wayshak go back a bit. I met him a decade or so ago. That's right, Wayshak Bomb. As part of the Zero Friend show. And I used to own a small piece of his. And I have a couple of commissions, pieces that he did for me. And, I bought what I got at OAX was great. But his covers are massive. Like he does not spare the trees. He just goes massive. And this thing, I was like, I couldn't bring it home with me because it's too big, and I didn't fit into my carry-on because it's twice the size of my carry-on. So I made him ship it to me. But like the amount of ink that he puts down, and the way that there is so much life and emotion. Like, look at the face on this character. I don't read Amory Wars. I'm sorry, Claudio Sanchez. But like his and I've watched him work before. I've seen paintings that he has, quote unquote, not liked and discarded because Dave Correa owns a couple, and his work is just truly amazing. And I'm so happy that that Kazra got him into brought him to OAX so that more people could see his work in person. Because I mean, Bill, as you could attest, like his work in person is head and shoulders over a lot of people.
He puts a lot of care into his pieces. That's the thing, and and it's funny. I mean, I think when I first started seeing his work early on, I felt like maybe they were a little over rendered, but then I just got his style. It made sense after the first several pieces that I saw. I'm like, this is the way that this guy draws, and it's wonderful. Because you feel like he is just he is attached to that piece when he's working on it. It's important to him to see it through, whatever his vision is, that he's going to do it. And because I look at this and his inking style kind of just I can't compare him to anybody out there really.
Yeah, and he's you can see some of his influences clearly, like and I know personally, like from talking to him, but like you look at this and you're like, okay, he's a fan of Sam Keith, obviously, and
sure,
he's a fan of the Biz, but there's so much of Wayshak that is just Wayshak, and it's hard these days to look at, like to see an artist and be like, oh, this person's super original, and this certain, but Wayshak is really doing stuff that it's just on a different level. And his Marvel cards have been a blast to watch, even though I wasn't able to afford one of the ones that I really wanted, but that's okay. That's the world of art. And he's just, I had him very early on. I had him as a guest on my channel, and he took me to school, and in the best way possible. Like his wealth of knowledge of the art world in general, like I know Kazra can match that, like that's probably why the two of them get along so well, like two nerdy art snobs that are great people. But Bill, and I'm sure I don't know your knowledge of art history, but I'm sure it's there too. But I love looking at his stuff, and I love talking to John, and I will support John from here until eternity as much as I can.
Well, again, I'm like you. I wish I could have picked up some of the card art. Some of the pieces he had on display at OEX just blew my mind. I mean, because I really don't believe I had seen his work in person up until then. I mean, I've seen scans on CAF and online for so long, but to see his work in person is just, it's just amazing. And it
really is. And the size, like he did a piece for Mondo for the King Kong Godzilla movie. It was a print, and I think the piece is like the original is like 38 by 40. He said it's on 2 boards, and I was like, I'm interested in it, and he's like, dude, I don't know how to get this to you. And I'm like, he's like, you also have to have the space for it. I'm like, yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. So I've seen paintings of his that are like the size of a small child. So yeah, he paints big, but I love that.
Well, we're going to switch over to some published artwork here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this one's a connecting story. So this is from the Art of Homage, or Homage, as some people say, but the Art of Homage Studios. This is, I bought this from Blackline Fever, which I don't know what happened to them, but they seem to not exist anymore. This was billed as a Silvestri piece, and I'm a huge Silvestri mark, but it is actually Joe Benitez pencils and Silvestri inks. And we go back to that Orlando MegaCon from 2010. The other artist sitting at the Hero Initiative table was Joe, and me and Joe started talking. We went out drinking the first night. We got drunk, and we were friends ever since. And I've known Joe now for 14 years. So when I saw this piece, I messaged him after I bought it, because I bought this in another an actual Silvestri pencil piece, and I said, hey, I got this, and they said it's Silvestri, but I'm like, isn't this yours? And he texted me back. He's like, yeah, that's the first published story I ever did. And so it turned out that I bought this page, not realizing that it was Joe's I mean, it's page 2 of a 3-page story, but this is the first published art that he ever had in a comic book. And I didn't realize it, and he was so happy. He's like, now I know where this piece is. And if I could track down the other 2, I'd buy him in a heartbeat to have my friend's first published story. That's super meaningful to me. And Joe has been somebody that has supported me since I've known him in everything I've ever done. And when I started doing the channel, he was like, yeah, I'll come on whenever you want me to. And Joe's been in the comics industry for 30 something years now, and he's got his creator-owned property, Lady Mechanica, and I've always loved his art. And we've talked about comics. We both big comic nerds, and so it was just having this piece to me is super important for that, and also that it's a great looking page too. So,
So I'm reading the chat. Number one Marvel fan says he was at that auction too. I guess a lot of people were at the MegaCon 2010 auction. I'm gonna have to go back and look at my photos now. I can embarrass anybody.
Yes, that's right. It was the movie poster pieces. Yeah, that was the old company I used to work for. So yeah, everybody's saying Black Line Fever is still around. Last time I checked their website, it was dead. It wasn't there anymore.
Well, it is still out there. I know, but like Kazra said, they don't update it too often. But that doesn't mean they don't have any art. I mean, if you're interested in stuff, I think you can still email them, and I don't think you'll get a reply from Glenn, but you will hear back from somebody about the availability of certain pieces. So.
Yeah, they weren't. I got to address this. Those are those things were never billed as actual autographs. I don't work for the company anymore. I whatever, but they made sure not to say that they were authentic autographs. That's why they were so cheap. But there were some autograph stuff at that auction because I was able to sell the stuff from my personal collection at that auction. So I did. Oh, okay. And they're back up. All right, Kazra. Well, that's good to know. Last time I checked, my browser was like, it went to some other website that wasn't Black Line Fever. It was some weird ass website, but I also have a lot of security on my computer, so maybe it was trying to warn me of something.
Well, I actually tried to see if I could find those MegaCon photos, and apparently I may have been at the auction, but I didn't take any pictures of the auction at MegaCon 2010. But I was there because I have a folder of photos from that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to see if I have any photos and maybe see if anybody I know now is in there. I mean, it was in a world, a whole different world from my life now.
Well, next up, we were just talking about this gentleman a little bit earlier.
Yes,
Mr. Allred.
Yes, Mike Allred. Simon, his rep, Simon Miller, our illustrious, very friendly guy. He posted these up on Instagram. Well, I know it was like a year ago, and Mike posted these up on Instagram, and they're these pop art paintings. And I think I just jumped on the Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. I have a couple of tattoos that are like centered around the old 60s Batman show. And since Mike is, the official Adam West Batman artist, how could you not want this? It's just so damn. I wanted to buy all of them, but I got to be smart sometimes. And I jumped all over this, and it's actually on my wall right now, next to the right below the Dave Correa Darth Vader, and I think his daughter did the patterns, right? Wasn't that what it was? Because I don't think
she made the pattern for him. I know that. I don't remember if she did the painting or not, but because I think we showed these somehow. There were a few on one of my shows, but again, I thought they were awesome. I remember there was a Wolverine, looked freaking awesome.
There was a Duke, there was a Sandman, a Surfer. Like, I legitimately, Bill, if I had like an excess, whatever, $10,000 just sitting around, I would have just bought them all. So
I get it.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I love Mike's stuff. If I have an ecstatics page, if I didn't have that, I probably would have gone after
And
one of those, because well, I did get that auction piece though. I can't.
that's right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
How can I forget about that? Okay, so I did spend a lot of money. Maybe I don't need my ecstatics page anymore now that I have the surfer painting.
you know how
Uh,
tempted I was to bid on one of those. And I'm glad that you and Jimmy got them, but it was just like, if Mike had made those and they were in Eugene, I would have bought it and then driven down and picked it up.
yeah, that was Mike. Mike was awesome to work with. The idea that he even was willing to paint those size paintings and bring bring them to the show and have them be a part of our auction was just unexpected.
Yeah.
And again, he gave a lot. He spent he did so many interviews leading up to the show.
Mhm.
I don't even think I did as much PR as Mike Gore did for OAX.
Seriously. I mean, look, if we're gonna pick the greatest ambassador for comics, especially with how nice they are, I think Mike's got to be in the top there. Mike actually might be able to solve world issues if he wanted to. If they just let him go to the UN and talk, he might actually be able to solve things.
That's true. As long as he keeps on his Boba Fett jacket
Yeah.
and
And his Mandalorian helmet.
yes, exactly. Oh man. See, I got to get him back on. I just love look behind him in his work area, with all the toys and things that he has lined up on the walls behind him. I mean, he's got one of the coolest spaces ever. Let's see. All right, we're moving on to number 8. We're on a countdown here.
All right.
Let's see. We've got Clunan, right?
Yeah, this is Becky Clunan, one of the last pages of the first book of Somna, which her and Tula Lote did for Distillery. The first issue came out at the end of last year, and then it wrapped up with the other 2 issues this year. I actually own 3 pages. I own one from each issue. Becky is long time one of my favorite artists. I honestly, like, I've started buying prints and stuff of hers probably 10, 15 years ago. And I don't remember where I first saw her art. Maybe it was in demo, or maybe it was, one of the books that she has done. But this book, Somna, is one of my favorite comic books in recent memory. It's a horny tale of, it's a folk tale, a horny supernatural folk tale. And her use of blacks on this page obviously is insane. It's like, it looks like an insane person put time into this, and she is just such a great illustrator. I often talk, and I had her and Tula on my channel this year to talk about Somna. Nobody comes close to doing eyes the way that she does, and I don't know what it is. I don't get it, but I could stare at that top panel for an hour. And I absolutely love this book, and I love her artwork. And she's just one of these people like I want to support as much as I can.
I love the blacks in this thing. It's like when you look at like a Mike Mignola piece, you just see how he's filling in the blacks. And I'm sure it didn't print like, I would imagine it doesn't look like this at all in print. The blacks are probably just a solid black, but it's so cool. And, the things you get to see in the original is just, it just makes this piece all the more special. I love it.
It does. And it's haunting. And this book is haunting. Like, I want everybody to, the hardcover just came out. Go to your local comic store and say, I want that. So in the hardcover, it's only $30 and it's a beautiful package. And then it's complemented with, these sequences kind of dreamlike that Tula does the art for. And it's 2 different art styles in one book. And and these pages, I don't know if you've seen any of these pages in person, Bill, but they're golden. They're bigger than Golden Age. They're fatter, they're wider than Golden Age. I had to buy a new portfolio for my 3 Somna pages.
Dang. Well, I'm not familiar with the story, but I wrote it down as something I'm going to look up.
Yeah, if you like, for fans of A24 movies, Midsummer, The Witch, Hereditary, this is that kind of story, but the art is absolutely stunning. You know what, Kessler? I don't think I've seen the Vampire Story. I don't think so. unless she ever published it anywhere else as like a mini comic, maybe I've seen it. I do like big art. I like big art, and I cannot lie.
Yeah, but it does make you have to buy bigger portfolios. I think we've all
Sure.
run into that time, a time or two.
You know, I don't know how many collectors are like that. I've always felt in collecting art, whether it's it's originals or it's like a print. I've always felt the bigger the better.
Mhm.
And that's just, I don't know if, and I've never asked anybody, like, does anybody else collect like that? Like, I have a big print collection. I have a movie poster size portfolio for prints, because there's just, I bought a Kira print recently that's like, it's so big, I just had to put it under my bed. I don't have a portfolio for it. Oh
man, yeah, it's funny. I was looking at the OAX posters the other day because I just kind of set them off to the side, and I've been meaning, and I forgot, I literally forgot about that one that we had that signed, right? The Adam Hughes
Yeah,
piece.
the foam board.
I'm like, dang it, I got to get that thing framed and up on the wall. It's too huge, but I want to be looking at that thing every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is cool. But we've all run into issues where you have to get larger portfolios. I ended up buying a couple twice up pages that needed it, and it's surprising. Certain artists have done work on large twice up. When Adam Hughes worked on that Star Trek book, the art was all twice up, and I got a page from that for my wife. And when I got it, I was like, oh crap. I don't have anything. I have nothing to put this thing in. I think that was the thing that made me buy one of those, a very large, oversized portfolio for it.
The biggest thing I own that's not a piece of art, but it's still, I guess you would consider it art. I own an Italian original Peter Jackson Bad Taste poster. It's a 6-footer, and I got it signed by Peter Jackson. I'm going to have to get it linen backed and framed at some point, but that thing it's as tall as a human being. So I guess I'm just going to have to make millions of dollars, and then I'm going to have to buy a castle in Scotland, and then just
that's like a tapestry. That thing's got to, you just got to hang that on a rail or something, and just and display it that way. That thing's huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic. It's gigantic.
Oh, the Casper one. I ended up buying a Husky toolbox. It's I think it's 60 inches by like 32, something like that. But it's got unlike, because flat files are so expensive. I don't know if you ever look at like the architect ones. They only get like 5 drawers, and they're literally $800 or $900 to get a good one. And this tool cabinet has like 7 long drawers that are literally about 4 foot by by the 32 inch, and then it has a small set on the other side where so in the smaller drawers I put all the bags and some other packing supplies in there, but it's perfect, and it costs like $900. So it's on wheels. I can roll around anywhere I want. I'm old. I've actually got it full. I literally could use a new one. But it is awesome, and it's got like a hardwood top on it. So I put the scanner up on there, and so it actually looks like it belongs in here. Like I actually thought it through when I really didn't. But
I always wanted to buy a flat file, but I moved too much. I moved from New York to Seattle to Portland. And I'm just like, I can't. It's bad enough I have a big record collection to move wherever I go. But I'll make this promise: if I ever do strike it rich, and I buy a castle in Scotland, I will make it the first ever original art and comic castle, and people can come. It'll be like an Airbnb where you can visit.
You can do tours like once a month or something, and rent out. Yeah, the tower can be Airbnb.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's the next goal.
Oh man. Well, this next artist, I've got a piece by them too. I've gotten to have lunch a few times with Obar. I love him. He's an interesting guy, but I've always enjoyed his style, because he's so unmistakable. When you see his work, it's him.
Yeah, he was somebody that I had met a bunch of times at a young age. The Crow movie comes out when I'm the right age, 15 years old. It's still one of the greatest movies ever based off a comic. Top 3 greatest soundtracks of all time. And I was a kid then. I didn't know that the depth and the strength of the book what he had written and what it was based on, and emotionally where it came from. And like I said, I met him. He was always very nice. And this piece popped up on, I think it was Comic Link like a year ago or something. And I just like, you look at a lot of his post 90s crows and they don't look the same. They look great, but they don't look the same. And this is 92. This is the prime James O'Barr crow era. And I was just like, I need to own this. And it's big. It's 16 by 20 or so. And man, I know I can never afford an original crow page. And I know somebody that has one of the DPSs. And so I had to have this. And it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Like you said, this is like unmistakably James O'Barr. And that movie still kills me to this day. Like, it still rocks my world. And obviously both James's story and Brandon Lee's story is just sadness, right? Like, James lost the love of his life and Brandon lost his life. And, there's so much, and the emotion that's tied into that book. I read it again about a year ago, and it's still a gut punch, that original Crow book. But in the best way, like, I think everybody can kind of figure out from some of the art I collect. I love dark stuff. And I love emotionally dark stuff. And can't think of anything more emotionally dark than the original Crow book.
No, not at all. Yeah, I was actually looking. I've never posted my O'Barr. I've got to get that on my CAF. But this is fantastic, and the right era too. I mean, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, he used to go to the Javits Center New York show in the 90s, and his table wasn't super packed, so he's one of those, you can go up to him and talk to him. He didn't talk too much, but he was always nice and always like signed everything. And I had like at least one, maybe even two Crow posters up in my room that were signed by him when I was a kid. Yeah, Derek said I can't explain why, but the little border is perfect. I don't know why either, but it is perfect.
Yeah, no, you're lucky to have this one.
Yes, and I'm very fortunate that I got it. And I, until, once again, it's another one of those things. Until an original page comes my way and I can afford it, I'm delighted and grateful to own this.
Well, now we've got a 4-pager here for number 6.
Yeah.
This is by Mr. Jim Rugg.
Yes. So this is my newest acquisition. This was from, so if you don't know who Jim Rugg is, not just, great comics creator, great artist, but the co-host of Cartoonist Kayfabe. And I've had Jim twice on my channel. We've become friendly, and we, he is just one of my favorite people to talk all comics with. He's a very positive human being. And, the Iron Claw came out last year, the story of the Von Erichs, the movie from A24. And Jim did a 4-page comic strip for the A24 zine for Iron Claw. And I didn't know he was doing it. And, he put it up on social. I bought a couple of copies and I saw the movie. Used to be a very big wrestling fan. It's part of my life for about 6 years. I went to like 100 live events and all this great stories. But when later on, earlier, I was some point at this year, I just messaged him. I'm like, hey, Jim, if you're ever planning on selling the, the Iron Claw story, I might be interested in it. And a couple weeks before Heroes, he reached out about it and he said, yeah, he's like, here's the price. And I'm like, I'll take it. Didn't even have to think about it. I'm like, I'll buy it. I get to support one of my favorite cartoonists / favorite people. B, it's the first full story I own. C, it's a fucking awesome wrestling comic. I mean, it's awesome. It's this cage match between the Nature Boy, and Kerry Von Erich. And like, could I ask for much more from a guy that, was one half of Cartoonist Kayfabe, which is a wrestling term? It's just the perfect thing for me as a fan and a collector. And just, nobody makes comics quite like Jim does currently. You know, like there's so much attention to detail. He's able to kind of draw in whatever style he feels like drawing. You know, it's kind of incredible. It's like he's a little bit of a chameleon in that way, but his use of onomatopoeias, the way he letters, he does everything by hand, he inks everything. It's just like learning about how comics are made at the level that him and Ed were making comics at makes me appreciate comics so much more. And so, yeah, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I've always admired Jim's flexibility and style, you know,
Yeah.
kind of adapt to what his story needs are. But yeah, he's a brilliant storyteller, and
Mhm.
this is really cool. I mean, to own a complete story by Rugg is awesome. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm
pages,
so fortunate that he decided that he would was okay selling it. Look at that opening splash page. So
yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to get this signed by Ric Flair, but I don't think I'll go out of my way to do something like that, even though it would be cool. Maybe get it signed on the back by him.
Yeah, no, I would. If you could, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have added onto it. I think, well, for you, right? I mean, because this is so personal, you're going to keep it for a while. So get
yeah,
Flair's, be pretty awesome.
This doesn't go anywhere, and until maybe I'm somewhere else.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, well, this is a first McFarlane to look at. How do you come across this one?
Yeah, this is a guy that some people might know, Todd McFarlane, a little known name from the 80s. No, so I do not hide my love for Todd and his artwork, and unfortunately, I do not have the bankroll that gets me a Spider-Man page or that gets me a Venom page. But this ASM 317, right? 317 or 307 page features the Chameleon. And, Chameleon is Spider-Man's first supervillain. This issue stuck out to me because I remember seeing that cover when I was a kid. And it's shriveled up looking Spider-Man on the cover. And it's so weird. And it's kind of gross. And this one came up for auction. And I was just like, you know what? This is the type of Todd page that I should get as a beginner. It was my second page, but I'm still a beginner when it comes to trying to buy Todd pages. And you've got technically a splash page, right? Like those two panels are on the page, but it is a splash page. You get the Chameleon, you get the weird hand, like Todd and his hands, they are so weird. Some of them are really gross. And then the burning Capitol building with the burning flag. And I'm a little bit of a punk, not a big fan of the government. After working for the government with the post office, I can clearly say that I don't like it. Rage Against the Machine is always flowing through my head. So, I dig this page, and it's Todd. I believe it's Todd inking Todd. I do not think it is inked by somebody else. And it's kind of got it's got some speed lines. It's got a little bit of everything that Todd does. It's got a profile, or at least almost a profile. It's like a 3/8 of a profile. I don't know what the fraction is, but just everything about it kind of sings to me as my opportunity to get a great Todd page that isn't a $50,000 or $40,000 page with Spidey on it. And
no, I get you. You got to have a good example, right? I mean, Spider-Man was. It was. I assume his work on Spider-Man was your favorite of the books they worked on. I mean, Hulk pages are a little cheaper than the Spider-Man pages.
They are, and the thing is like I do want to own. My favorite actually is probably it is Spider-Man altogether, but adjectiveless Spider-Man also is what I was buying as it was coming out, whereas I had to go back and buy some of these ASM issues, but there's no Todd that I don't want to, like, I want to own an Infinity Ink page. I want a Hulk page. The opportunity to get a Spawn page probably will never come up because he still owns, if not 100% of it, like 90% of it. But yeah, Spider-Man is my favorite, and I would love to own one of every of the Rogues Gallery. You know, I'd love a 311 Mysterio page is kind of like the top of my list. But yeah, it's got a little bit of everything that I want from a Todd page without being the most expensive thing in the world.
Well, that's awesome. You got to, you have a good example with that. And I know the Infinity Ink pages are very affordable and plentiful. There's a lot of those out there. But it's finding the right one, right? Because it's early in Todd's career, and not all the pages look quite like Todd, but some of them you start to feel it, right? You start to kind of seeing his style, his eventual style, kind of coming through those Infinity Ink pieces. But
especially with the panel layout. The panel layout, like I'd love to get one with a weird panel layout.
4 vertical panels, like he's so used to doing. You know, those really
or ones. like a question mark that's in the middle of the page. And that's a panel, or like Mr. Bones's hand in Infinity Ink is a panel. Like somebody at OAX, I forget which dealer it was, had a page from ASM 311, and it's like a full figure of Mysterio, and his arm and the cape like break up the panel, the panels, but it's like way too out of my budget for me to even consider it.
But it was cool to see, at the very least.
Yes.
I wonder which dealer that was.
Let's see if you want. I can't remember.
He never has McFarlane fighting stuff. I'm thinking Bashara. He's always surprising with some odd things like that. But cool. Yeah. I didn't get to do any sightseeing during OAX. I hope to do a little bit more of that this next show. I want to be able to browse the hall. There was like a whole row I didn't even walk down. The one that was when you walked in and to the right. I never got to the middle of that, like where Will Gabrielle was set up. And I'm trying to think who else. Like there was Mike Lovitz and Stevie B had a to the next to them. I did not walk down that aisle.
Right, because Eater was at the end of that aisle, right?
Eater was at the end. Cool Lines was in between them. I talked to Kevin Nolan once, who was across from them, but I never saw Bob Layton where his table was because it was right across from there. So Bob and John Beatty. Like Kevin, I mean, I don't know how I never walked down that. That's why it's like, you got done and you're like, doggone, man. We had such a fun show, and yet you could have had like an extra half a day, and it still would have felt like you could have wanted more time. But I mean, it's still, I think time is perfect on it. But it's a lot to kind of take in. Especially,
I didn't even get to look at everything, and I was not working there. I was just walking around. Like,
well, we expect you to work at the next one.
Sure. I'll be there with bells, whistles, everything. I can't wait for 2025.
We were so fortunate to have a lot of people, recording things that were there and posting them afterwards, because as much as we thought we kind of had our arms around like how we were going to document that first show, we didn't know what we were in for. And how interesting it was going to be, and how hard it seemed at the end of the day. Like after the show was over, we didn't have a lot of the cool shots that we thought we'd have, because that was trying to do a first year show and having no photographs or anything to show for it was really hard to kind of figure out how you promote something like that. And we were like, it'll be easy after year one, and then it's funny, you go through all the photographs that were taken, and it's like, but there's only about a dozen good pictures in here. How is that possible? You have a whole weekend of you taking shots and other people taking shots, and then you find out that you still missed the boat just a bit. So this coming up year, I'll be more focused on making sure that I get to everybody, especially while I'm filming.
But for me, that's second nature for me, is just like with this channel, is to just have the camera here and not do anything differently than I normally would. Have conversations, like I ask people, like, is it okay, that I'm filming this? And other than that, like, the conversations stay normal, and I flip through the stuff, and if one person out of the couple of thousand people that watched the video got seasick, well, then that's okay. That's on them. That's not on me.
Exactly. They're still watching, even if they're getting a little queasy. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for OAX
As are we.
2025. Oh,
Uh,
I wanted to. I just want. Did you get that video clip that I sent? I was just curious.
the video clip.
Oh
Now
wow.
I'm beginning to wonder if I did or not. I don't.
All right. Don't worry. While we're doing the next piece, I'll send it over real quick if you want to
Okay,
play
yeah,
it.
please do, because I don't think I did. Was it in the Google Drive?
No, I think I put it in there. If not, I can get to it in just a moment.
Yeah,
Um,
please. Yeah, put it up there because I don't. I thought zipped it and downloaded everything, and I.
My bad. All right.
No. Okay,
I'll
we
do
got.
that.
All right. Well, you do that, and we'll keep talking here. We got four more pieces to look at, and so clearly, you have an affinity for things that are little off, a little different, and I mean, there's definitely not enough Hewlett artwork out
No.
there, not on CAF. I mean, so this is awesome. I mean, I really love this page.
Yeah, I was telling the story to Jim Rugg earlier this week. So this was in a first off, it's Jamie Hewlett, right? And
Mhm.
I didn't read Tank Girl when I was young because where was I getting Deadline magazine at 8 years old? I wasn't. I just wasn't, right? But Lori Petty movie comes out, and I'm like, oh, this is weird and this is cool. My love affair with Hewlett doesn't start until Gorillas comes out. And then it's one of those things where like Gorillas is a catalyst for me to go look at Hewlett stuff. It's also a catalyst for me to go back and just get reacquainted with Blur and then, like fall in love with them all over again. I am quite enamored with British culture. I've been to London a handful of times and I have friends that live there. And so, I've become a Hewlett fan. I met him in 2000 and whenever Plastic Beach came out. So that's like 2010 or whatever. Very nice. Did a sketch of Noodles for me from Gorillas. This was in a signature auction last year. And I was bidding on a Bernie Wrightson DPS from Spider-Man Hooky. And I lost it. I lost it for two reasons. I was afraid to hit the bid button. And then when I had the strength to hit the bid button, I was too late. Like it was one of those things where like, that is so much money, but I want it. And so that passes me by. And the way the signature auctions are structured, the underground indie stuff came after. And I did not realize that this was in here. And this is a page from Deadline 3. It's the last page of the third appearance of Tank Girl. And I saw this. I'm like Mary and I think it's Pip or Mary and Lord. I'm getting one, and I'm like, I'm getting this fucking page. This will be mine, and I want it. And I feel like I stole this. I feel like the wool was over everybody's eyes, and I just yoinked this because this is, like you said, who, where do you ever see Hewlett artwork for sale? Nowhere. I mean,
No.
I even did my research after the fact to see how many pages of Deadline have sold, and there's like two. And then there was a first appearance that sold this year for 20,000 almost. And it's such a cool page. That crash up top is a paste up, and it's the last page. And actually, my friend just bought and sent me Deadline 3. He was in London and at Mega City 1, which is one of the best comic stores in the world, and asked him to see if he could find a copy, and he did, and he sent it to me. And yeah, I feel so fortunate, and like I said, I feel like I stole this because this is everything you could want from a Tank Girl page, and it just happens to be the third appearance. You know?
Yeah, you lucked out on that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing, and like you say, they just don't come up, and when they do, they tend to be very expensive, and
Mhm.
I'm very envious of this piece.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is, I feel, kind of one of those pinch me type things. Like this is mine, and I get to look at it, and I get to just like, I feel like this is, it's like having a page from like his comics career is short when you think about it. maybe 10, 15 years worth and sporadic work. And I am a huge Gorillaz fan. So like, this is meaningful for so many reasons for me, because it's like, this is the architect of one of my favorite, pieces of the music world for the last 20-25 years of my life. And yeah, it's a killer page. It's like all the types of things you could do to create a comic. He used those techniques on this page. There's zip, there's paste up, there's it's just a little bit of everything on there. And yeah, super fortunate to get to look at this whenever I want.
Yeah, it's an end page. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, oh man.
And I totally forgot to post this anywhere. Like, this is the first time anybody is like showing this off, or I'm showing this off. Like, it's not on CAF. I don't think I put it up there. I never posted it on Instagram. I just kind of like felt like keeping this one for a little bit, but obviously I'm going to be posting it because now I'm talking about it.
I did get your video. I can just see the preview for it. So I don't know when we should play it.
We could play it before the last piece.
Okay, I'm going to take your advice, since I don't know what we're going to see here. But all right, well, congrats on that one. That's a great story on that piece. Now this next one, we saw an image from this when you were pulling out the Kirby book earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like there was a point where I wanted to own, not had to, but I wanted to own a Kirby piece. And I think it's okay as an art collector to kind of really be choosy when it comes to something that you actually like. You can have a choice of what Kirby piece you want to own. There's a lot out there. Not all of the big ones, but there are a lot out there. And this is from Satan 6, number 1. And one of the reasons why this book's important to me, or one of the couple reasons, it's a book that I owned when it came out. It's towards the end of his life and the end of his career. But I was alive and buying comics when this came out. Another piece of it that why the book itself is important to me is Todd inked the cover. And this was a Topps comic where all of these guys were doing inking, and some of these books, especially the Image ones that he did, but some of these books were the biggest paychecks that Kirby had gotten, because they were selling thousands and thousands and thousands of copies, and he was getting paid. But it's also Royer inking a splash page, and like, he's my favorite inker of Kirby. I think he brings out some of the weirdest, like what Kirby does, especially with faces. Royer brings out some of the weirdest aspects and traits of Kirby's faces. And funny, I was driving back from Portland. I swear, I think it was after Rose City Comic Con, and it was a Sunday maybe, or a Saturday, and it was part of a signature auction. And I had my phone on the little thing on my air vent, and I'm watching the auction, and this was coming up in like 2 minutes. I get off I-5 and I win it while I'm sitting in my car. I'm like, I need to own this. Like, this is the one. Like, I finally found a Kirby page that probably won't go for as much as some of the others when it comes to splash pages. Something that I grew up with, because I'm not, if I was in my 50s, then I would have grown up probably looking at fourth world stuff. And so I want it. And like, this is also part of the reason why we did the Kirby Faces zine. Like, this was probably the first thing that really keyed me into, like, you look at these 4 different faces on this page, and there's 4 different emotions and 4 completely different people. And so, yeah, it's just like everything I want in a Kirby Royer team up, without having to spend $25,000 to get a Marvel or DC character,
Yeah, and, it's very nice.
Yeah. And it's really creepy. Like, I'm staring at this, and it's not lost on me how creepy this page truly is.
The guy in the middle is peering into your soul.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's like, "Come with us, join us," and they're all just like, "We're gonna watch." I'm like, "All right." And but yeah, this is we could call this page "The Many Faces of Jack Kirby." Like that's
Mhm.
that's really what this is, and it's I everybody's got their own. I would love to own a Silver Surfer Splash or a Galactus Splash.
Oh yeah.
I don't own that kind of I don't have that kind of capital to just throw at it. But this, if I, because I looked at a lot of the Ruby Spear stuff and some of the other pages, and yeah, I just love and I love everything that Royer does when it comes to inking Kirby. So
Agreed. I think everybody feels, well, not everybody, but many people feel that Royer was Kirby's best inker, or at least brought out, represented Kirby's pencils
yeah,
the best, the closest.
yeah, I think it's a very shared sentiment. I think that it's especially because when you look at from 2001 on to the Fourth World stuff, like it's just some of the wildest, coolest stuff.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there
I've
you
always
go.
wanted a 2001 page. That, that is on my wish list.
I mean, there's a lot of pages in that book,
There
so
is.
at least the odds of you getting one are better than, let's say, you said, "Oh, I want one from Fantastic Four 48, 49, 50."
No, I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I'm not crazy. I do have a Kirby Thor page from like issue 158 or
Oh,
something. So,
nice.
so I can at least say that I have a Kirby piece in my collection. But yeah, I've always wanted a 2001 page. That's and it just because when you go back and look at that, it is just crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
his depictions of outer space and things were just so wild and weird. And oh my gosh, I mean, I just thinking about it now. I mean, I haven't thought about wanting to own a 2001 page for over a year, and now I'm like, I'm writing it down. I kind of like,
Right.
I got to keep my eyes open.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, if anybody can be found and approached with a 2001 page, you might be the easiest person to find and approach. You literally represent this entire community.
mm,
So
I saw a number one Marvel fan was asking about Marcus. I bet Marcus is busy with Albert Moy and others setting up.
that's why Lance is in here too.
Yeah,
And Lance promised he would try and hop in, but yeah, you got to get this from 2001.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have got to take care of that. That's yeah. I did. I've written it down. I'm going to be on the lookout because I don't even care what the page is. I'll
Yeah.
be happy just to be able to say I have one.
Yeah, because you like that book, so like whatever's in there, you're gonna appreciate seeing the original and owning the original art of. I mean, it's kind of how I feel about. I mean, what I feel about Kirby, but for me, it's Todd. Like, I'll take anything
Right.
because I love it all. Like, doesn't really matter what it is. I'm just gonna gobble it all up and love it because it's him, and specifically, like, yeah, 2001 page would be killer to have.
All right. Well, this is the piece that I was talking about being jealous of earlier.
Yeah.
A Ed Piskor thing,
Yes.
and somehow there's a story here that involves Kazra and I. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious because I'll be honest. The moment I saw this thing, I loved it.
Yes. Same here. And Ed being half of the inspiration, for for half of the kayfabe channel, and the big inspiration for what I got myself into when it comes to my channel. So when I saw this, when it first came out, Fantastic Four Grand Design, um, I thought this was the coolest thing. Like, nobody had ever successfully or tried even to homage Miller's Dark Knight issue 2. And
Mhm.
Ed picked the right character, and he's the right person to pull this task off, because Ed was a scholar of comics and spoke the gospel. And so I guess it was last year he had shown, like, he's like, oh, him and Jim were doing Baltimore, and um he had shown off like some of the stuff he was bringing, and this was in the portfolio. And so, I know, I talked to Ed a bunch. I would just like message him, and I'd send them books all the time. Like, I'd message him and be like, "Oh, do you have this?" He's like, "No, I didn't I didn't know that existed. And I'm like, I'll just send it over. And so we had that kind of relationship. I always tried to get him on the channel, but the man did nothing but make comics. So he's kind of really frank with me. He's like, if I have any time down the line, sure. But the man never stopped making comics. So I saw that was in Baltimore. I hit him up. I said, let me know if that doesn't sell. I'd be interested. And he said, sure. And so it came back from Baltimore, and he said, look, he's like, we're doing New York because they were doing Big Apple Con. And then he was like, we're doing this show in Florida in January because Kazar had asked him, and they were originally going to go to OAX. And I hope I'm not spilling any trade secrets, but at this point, like, look, after everything that's happened, like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Well, we did talk with them. They were actually our original choice to be the auctioneers.
yeah,
We felt they would do a fantastic job of it because their knowledge of and passion of the arts, right? I mean,
hmm
and so they, we did get to have a meeting with them, and it didn't work out,
yeah,
but yeah, and that was Kazer's idea. It would have been brilliant to
it
have
would
had
have
them be at the show for our first year. So, um,
100%.
so how did this still end up in your collection, though? I
So
mean,
so what he said to me was like, and I spoke to Kazra, but I know the type of person Ed is, and he was like, they want, like, we want to save our best stuff for that. And he's like, if it doesn't sell, you know, we'll talk. And after they did Big Apple Con, he hit me up and he's like, Dave, do you still want this? And I said, of course. And he gave me the price. And it was like, I don't know, like 25 seconds. I fucking PayPal'd him the money. and the thing is like, Ed, the more I talked to him, the more that our conversations just kind of became like bullshitting about comics. And like, I, I'd show him something and then we just start talking about it. And yeah, he's like, he's like, this is the price and I'll ship it out. And I, because he's not an art person, and he used to go on record talking about like how he doesn't even like owning original art, even though, like, even if it's his, but he doesn't even like owning original art because he's scared that something would happen to it. So he was like super nervous about shipping this to me, and he insured it and he put it in this huge box, and it came, and I thanked him so many times. I'm like, thank you for letting me be the person to buy this. And he was so gracious about it. And, uh, you know, uh, I was part of the Patreon for kayfabe. So I was in the weekly recording sessions in the chat. And then, like around the time that I bought this from him also was I sent him, forget what issue of Comics Journal, but it was the Comics Journal where Art D. Fisher interviews Rob Liefeld, and it's like one of the most open Rob Liefeld interviews you'll ever read. But I didn't, Ed gave me this huge shout out before each episode and talked about my channel, and that's when I found out like he watched the McFarlane interview and he'd seen and I was like, oh man, like I felt like I was so self-conscious about that. I'm like, the two guys that I kind of took my inspiration from both watch my channel, but this piece is it's a masterpiece. It's absolute, like, his use of blacks, the detail, I just everything about it. I often look at this thing on a, if not daily basis, a weekly basis, and just kind of like the Hewlett piece. I pinch myself. Like, I own this. And, you know, um, in light of what has happened, and Ed not being around, and we lost him, this is such, like, it's such a special piece to me, and in more ways than I can really say right now, because I don't want to start crying like a baby on live on stream. But yeah, it's just such a fantastic piece. And Frank Miller's Dark Knight, come on, like, I'm never gonna own that, but I'll own the greatest homage to it.
Yeah, no arguments there. I mean, like I said, the moment I saw it, I wanted this piece, and yeah, and I'm not a Thing or Fantastic Four collector. It's just
Me
you knew
neither.
it was the it was the piece to
Yeah.
get. If so I'm glad it ended up in your hands, man. Especially given um, the relationship that you had with the kayfabe channel in that way. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
we've all experienced it. I watched a lot of their programming too, but yeah, yeah. Every time I look at that smile on the thing, man, it's just it's too perfect.
Yeah. And he, like, just like Jim, like these are two guys that are artists, like so unique and so talented. And I'm glad that I got to really get to know Justine and Bree, his two sisters, at Heroes this year. And I'm gonna be they're gonna be on the channel in the next couple weeks. And I'm gonna be going to the Eddie P Con in August 24th. If you're in the Pittsburgh area, please come down to it and support. I'm going to be working with them and doing some stuff. We have I have some interesting ideas to try and help them out.
Mhm.
So look for that coming up soon, because Ed's legacy is gonna we're gonna be thinking about the stuff that the two of them did on that channel for a long time, because like I'll never be able to do what they did. I don't think anybody's gonna be like the Eastman and Laird uh interviews with the flip throughs on the issues, and Gibbons with the Watchmen, and Darrow, and like all of these things. Like, it's comics history, and the art that we all love, right? And what you champion with comic art fans at Kazra, like, it's a symbiotic relationship with the finished product that
Mhm.
that, and the interviews and all that. So yeah, kayfabe forever, and Ed forever. And Jim, and we gotta we gotta hold that man up too, because Jim's like one of the best.
Yeah, he definitely is. I agree. So, oh well, we should. Is it
Yeah.
okay to play that? All right.
Yeah, so this is because Kazra asked me to do like a little video to talk about the channel a little bit, a little promo. And if you know me or you've never watched my channel, you're gonna have to deal with a little bit of humor, which, if that's not your thing, I'm not sure what to tell you. But my sense of humor comes from listening to a lot of Weird Al at a young age and watching a lot of Simpsons.
All right. Well, I'm going to watch this for the first time, just like everybody else.
All right.
The following message is not endorsed by Comic Art Live and its overlords Bill Cox and Kazra Gambari. This message is pure art, subjective, expressive, organic art.
Hello, comic art fans. Hello, comic art fans.
Oh, hello there. Sorry, I didn't realize that we were filming already. Hi, I'm Dave, and I run a channel called West Coast Davengers right here on YouTube. And you're asking yourself, Dave, what are you doing right now? Well, I'm cutting up and editing a possible Oscar-nominated short film. But that's not important right now. What's important is, let me tell you about my channel. I am a comic collector, a comic reader, and a comic seller. I buy comic collections. I go hunting for comics at garage sales, flea markets, stores. I even go to other countries to hunt comics. So you can check out those videos and many more, as well as one of my favorite aspects of West Coast Avengers. That's right, I love to interview comic creators. You can find such interviews like Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson on here, such illustrious comic art fans, associates like Jimmy Palmiotti. So I want you to watch me right now with Bill and Kazra to talk about the things that I'm talking about right now, and original art, like a beautiful involuntary Human Torch. All right, thank you, and don't forget to subscribe to West Coast Avengers. Back to you, Bill. Come on, Bill. Back to you. Kazra, can you?
Yes, that's awesome, and I can see the all red on the wall too.
Yeah. It's right on this wall over here. Yeah, somebody asked me to make a video, and they just have to hope that like I stay within the boundaries of sanity, because my first instinct is to like, okay, let me make this video and then edit it in a way that maybe David Lynch would. So like in the middle of me talking, there's like worms and dirt, and then there's an atomic bomb going off somewhere. Like I want everybody to question. I want everybody to feel what it's like to be up here. So
Well, we all got a taste of what that is right now. But no, thank you for that. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll be making some of these fun videos for you.
And that was a very good shirt that you had on as well.
Oh yeah,
The other one,
the
yeah,
yeah, that was a Walmart Todd McFarlane button down shirt.
a
It's like,
Walmart special. I didn't know that they sold those there.
one of my friends turned me on to it. It was like $13 and $13.99. I'm like, yes, please.
Oh man! All right. Well, speaking of McFarlane, we have one final piece to look at as we've taken the countdown from 16 down to number 1 now.
Yes. So this is I omitted talking about this because I wanted to wait until we got to it. I got this Venom sketch from Todd himself in one of the just the best situations I could have ever asked in. But the reason why this is number 1 too is because once again, it doesn't really bear repeating, but he is the reason why I love art in general, the reason why I love comic art, and the reason why I still, kind of really passionate about it. But this was about 2010, maybe it was 2012, somewhere in that range. I used to work in Manhattan, and he was doing a signing at the NHL store for the release of the NHL Sports Picks figures, Series 7. And so I went down there after work to get a couple of things signed, and I brought my sketch pad with me. And this is I forget what the size is, but it's pretty big. It's 11 by 14 or something. And there was 15 people at the signing because it was at 5:00 in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, and on a Tuesday. What do they think? 1,000 people were just going to run and go down there? No, just the crazy people. And so there was 15 people there, and I got on back of the line. And when I got to him, I got a couple of things signed, and I kind of looked around. There was maybe 3 or 4 people behind me. And I said, "Hey, Todd," and he was with one of his, I guess he was with Jake. And I was like, "Hey, Todd, I know you don't really do sketches, but there's nobody really here. If I wait, do you mind doing a sketch?" And he kind of looked around and realized that 20 minutes had passed into the signing and it was pretty much done. And he looked at his son. His son was either playing a PSP or a Game Boy or whatever. And his son just shrugged and he's like, "Yeah, sure." And so I just stepped away. 4 more people got their things signed. I handed him. He's like, "Who do you want?" I'm like, "Venom." He's like, "Done." Despite this being a sketch, I would say it still took him 20. He put about 20, 25 minutes into it, which was more than I could ask. But, this was that one time where you ask the right question at the right time to the person that you want to ask it to, and they say yes.
Right.
And, I always wondered what, and I'm no intention of ever selling it, but I always wondered what something like this would get, knowing that, now that I put it not just on record right here and on my channel, but I put it on record with Todd. And so it's got the provenance of him talking about that too. But I have no intentions of ever selling it because it really is I'm so scared of actually getting this framed that I've never taken it off the pad.
Well, I mean, it's very cool, man. I mean, and you, like you just said, right place, right time, right signing, and an agreeable child.
Yeah. And like Kazir said, he said that he's only done a handful, 30 sketches or whatever, and it's true. Even when he did his Whatnot show earlier this year, and he talked about he did, I think, 2 sketches, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't do sketches," and I love his reasoning. His reasoning is just it's not going to look good. He doesn't want to give you something that's going to look like shit. And what is more respectable than that? And I've heard people complain about it. I'm like, "Yeah, that's just because you don't understand the fact that he doesn't want to give you crap. So why would he do that?" But yeah, this is one of those things that if my house caught fire, this would be one of the 2 or 3 things that I'd try and grab. because it means so much to me. And like, I met him a handful of times besides that time, and he has always been the same awesome, not just he listens to you. Like if you start talking to him, he's listening to you, and he actually takes that time. And we've all had interactions with people and that we've looked up to, and probably had a couple of those interactions where we're like, oh, that kind of sucked. And this was the opposite. Every single time that I've had an interaction with him, it's always been great. And like that piece of art is so important to me. If it represents everything I love about comics, comic art, and every good experience that I've had.
What year was that?
I think it was like 2011, somewhere in that, because I moved out of New York in 2013, and I worked in Manhattan from 2008 to 2013. So I want to say about 2010 or 11.
Very cool. That's a long time to keep a piece in the spiral bound.
I know. I just don't like. What do I do? Do I cut it out and get it framed? Do I cut it out and put it in a portfolio? Do I get it? The problem is there's an Eric Powell Goon sketch in that pad too. It's just like, I don't know. I want somebody to be like, Dave, I'm a professional framer. Just bring it to me. I will take care of everything.
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it every day, I mean, that would, yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one, but it means so much to you that it's something that it would be cool to be able to see every day, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. One day you'll have to get. All I would do, I would just take a straight edge and a knife and just cut it right at the end.
Yeah. Or I could just clip the entire the metal spirals off and then take it right out.
You could do it that way too.
Most people be shocked to know actually I have framed 0 pieces of original art. I prefer portfolios because the house I'm in has too much natural light. Yeah, I have an east-west facing house, so morning times flooded with sunlight on this side of the house, and then everything after 3 p.m. it's on that side. But I'm moving soon, and that's when I'm going to start getting stuff framed.
You're getting the castle.
Well, no, I got to step up to that. I'm renting a bigger house, but the castle is the retirement plan.
Cool. And was that a Wrightson on the wall in front of you?
That's a House of Secrets 92.
Well, there's that one, but I thought like when the video played, what's that?
Yes, that print that's on the wall.
Print, right?
It's called an Ode to a Scottish Prayer.
That's right.
It's signed and numbered out of 450.
So I remember that was on an art catalog cover.
In a magazine. I forget what it's. I have the magazine somewhere here. But yeah, Wrightson is my next. That's my next kind of big spend is going to be a Wrightson piece because I've lost more than I can count. And
you want to get a published piece or a some kind of commission.
I mean,
sketch kind of piece.
I can't afford a Swamp Thing piece. If I could find a Spider-Man hooky piece, I would go for that. If I can't, I'd just like to have a cool horror piece, something really nasty looking. Fortunately, there's a lot of his art that exists, but it's not cheap, and the good ones usually get scooped up pretty quickly. So
that is true. But the thing is, like you just said, there's a lot out there, so you can probably. I don't know. As long as it's not a more mainstream book, you might still be able to get it at a price that won't make you hurt a little bit.
Yeah, like Hooky. I mean, even though it is a Marvel and it's a Spider-Man book, like I think it gets overlooked by Wrightson fans more than it doesn't.
It's colored, and I think I don't know. It's just it doesn't hit people as like that's not the Wrightson they want. Right?
Yeah,
they want some lush, inks. Washes on it that's what they're looking for, and so I just think that for whatever reason I feel the same way. It's like for me I think it's a cool point in his life because I think about like some of the heavy metal work or whatever, and I like his color work, right?
Yeah,
and so I don't look at it and think it's not important or not or should be valued more, but
right.
You'll get it. Well, I'm sure you will.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I'll get a gruesome one too. Like it would be the yin and the yang, get a nice like lush color piece and then get a really, gruesome, like half decomposed body standing next to a grave. Like that's the beauty of his artwork, is just like he could do. You got the spectrum of Bernie, and yeah, one day. And there's some other names on there that Kazru's gonna hate me. I left off a Sienkiewicz piece on this list, but I'll get a Sienkiewicz piece that I will be on the next list. How about that?
That's cool. Do I own anything by Sienkiewicz? I don't know if I do. I may not. No, I have an old sketch.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Sienkiewicz is on he's on a lot of people's lists, right? I mean,
yeah,
we all. That's the cool thing. You'll never scratch every itch that you have, right? I mean, there was an Alex Ross piece I was looking at last.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, and it hasn't. Well, okay, I put a bid on it and pushed it up real early, just the other day.
Well, you forced my hand too on one. Like, you FOMO'd me into bidding on that. Like, I didn't even look at the Heritage auction. You guys were talking about it. I see the Larson Fosco piece. And I'm like, oh, let me bid on that. And I pushed it up, and, like an idiot.
Yeah. Well, Heritage should thank me more. Did you see the show when I promoted that one? I can't remember what the piece was now. It was a Psylocke page. And, during, I was like, this thing is beautiful. And it was at like $250. And like 60 seconds later, it was at $1,250. Everybody was like, I was watching that one. You shouldn't have talked about it, Bill. But it only ended for like $1,350. So even though we pushed it up, it didn't go much further than that. But it is kind of fun to kind of pick stuff out. Get Stingray says, get the Ross, Bill. I put a $750 bid on it yesterday, I think, and it pushed, and then it went up to like $810 or something like that. So I tried. I mean, I'm not done. I can't say I could be done, because I was just sort of, like everybody was saying, a Wednesday Heritage auction during San Diego.
During San Diego is a bad idea.
Got to be the opportunity to get something at a steal. So that's why I'm going to throw a bid in there now, and I won't think about it. And I was outbid. So I was like, crap, do I put a $1,100 bid in? Will that be enough? And now I don't know. And if I don't know.
But that was a smart idea. Like, I was thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, no, people aren't going to be looking at that auction because of everybody's in San Diego right now. And I'll keep my eye on that Larson Fosco for tomorrow. And I got a comic collection to go look at too, and I have a live show tomorrow night. So we'll see what happens. But I've actually bid on things live on my show, because I know I'm supposed to be selling tonight, but you guys could watch me try and win this page or whatever I was bidding on. But yeah, it's fun. Like, this whole thing is fun. And CAF gives me, like, it's such a wealth of information. At the same time, it's scary because I can see who owns this, and it's like, oh man, if this person sells it, like, I have access to it. I only just found out, like, certain covers that I didn't know were out there in the public forum are on CAF, because I can't, if I start searching for it, I'm going to try and either find a way to buy it, or it's scary.
I understand. I do. But hey, I turn into a pumpkin usually at this hour, but it's early for you. You're on the West. You're West Coast Davengers.
Yeah. So it's only 8:30 for me. I could, to paraphrase our friend Steve Rogers, I can do this all day, all night.
Oh man, well, this is fun, man. I'm glad you had some time to do this. I mean, I know Kazra, he helped me out in lining this one up, but I do hope that we get to work on some stuff, at OAX, and and trust me, if there's ever anything I can do, for you leading up to, for anything really. I mean, I'm happy to help out. We're brothers in arms in the live streaming world. So, and I think it's cool that you kind of touch an audience that we don't really get to know, and I think it's great that you're talking about OA in front of those people too.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I want to say thank you and thank you to Kazra for inviting me on this. Like, this is this is a world that I want to be more involved in, and everybody that, like Thomas and Lance and all these people that I've talked to after OAX, like, it's been great. Like, everybody's super friendly in a world where there's a lot of you would think that there's a lot of people that aren't friendly. And I'm not saying that I met anybody that way, but it's just, when you play with big money and big money pieces, like some people get, sketchy. And I'm like, this is the opposite of the experience I've had with everybody involved after OAX and at Heroes and, on CAF.
Mhm.
So yeah, I want to say thank you. And I'm happy to, anything you can think of, anything I can think of, I'm happy to share ideas and, connect you to anybody that maybe you haven't been connected with yet, that I've had on my show or whatever, except I don't know if I could connect anybody with Todd. I don't think that's a thing I can do.
I didn't ask, right? I didn't. I know my limitations on certain things. Yeah, Todd it would be cool to talk to, but I think he's somebody that I know a lot of people would probably be interested in. But I think it's cool to see him just pop up, in places that you might least expect him to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, but Dave, this was awesome, and again, I appreciate everything that you do, and again, I think we got to look at artwork tonight that I don't know if we've ever had anybody feature Rugg or Piscor, and even Clunan. I can't say that in any of the the collector interviews that we've done that collectors have picked artwork from any of those artists. So I really appreciate the diversity.
Yeah,
brought today.
I love the idea of being able to bring a little bit of that to it. I like what I like, and I love to talk to people and try and get people to at least read books and stuff that I like or check out artists. So I appreciate you giving me this really nice length of time to chat.
My pleasure. And thank you everybody in the chat for hanging out and enjoying the conversation with us. I don't have anything scheduled live until after San Diego is over. I do have, for those of you not going to San Diego, there will be on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. I've got a premiere of a interview I did with the Meacham brothers, who are from Canada. They've been collecting since the late 70s. Whoa. And they collect as like a duo. They literally, make an agreement on what they were going to buy. They buy the pieces together. It's kind of like two split collections. Every 6 months, they swap the pieces because most of them are framed. I don't know how they do it. Co-owning artwork, I don't think I could do that myself. But
Casper does it with his brother.
He does, right? So it's not. And there are other collectors who aren't related that own, that have gone in to buy a piece. Like, if there's a 60,000 cover and you both only have 30 grand and you both really love it. I mean, I've heard of these stories before. So these guys are really interesting, and I'd never gotten the chance to talk with them too much. One of the gentlemen, Lee, was actually at OAX, so I got to meet him there. But nice. But it's a really interesting. We actually end up looking at 50 pieces of art because they went into it with a plan. They wanted to be off camera more than they were really on camera. So we're going to look at a lot of stuff. So if you're bored and you're not going to San Diego, 9 o'clock, hang out on the channel. You'll get to see a really cool interview and look at a lot of cool art.
Before we go, can I just make a quick triple plug?
Yeah, of course.
Many Faces of Jack Kirby's available. You can reach out to me on my website, westcoastdavengers.com, or Instagram. My podcast is called Direct Edition. My first season ended. My second season just started. And if you're a movie fan, my first episode of my second season talks about the influence of Jaws on Jordan Peele's Nope and Godzilla -1. And I released an episode on West Coast Avengers last weekend where I flipped through an old Russ Cochran original art catalog, and I show you what I would buy in 1974 if I had $2,200 in 1970.
That is awesome. I did some work for Russ while he was still alive. I never got to talk with him, but my payment was like the first 60 art catalogs that they did. That because I told him that too. He's like, "You wanted to give me some money?" I'm like, "Do you still have those catalogs?" He's like, "Pristine. They were still stapled." And so I don't even think I opened them all. I was just so happy to have them. And,
those are a beautiful time capsule, especially with all the bark stuff and the Frazetta and the burn.
My gosh, yeah. We owe a great debt to what Russ did with the EC archives, and we as OA collectors. I mean, he's right there at the beginning of all of that. Was like one of the first auctioneers to put the art out there, and the site's still going. So Oh man. All right, Dave. Well, listen again. I appreciate it, and thanks everybody.
Yeah,
We'll
thank you,
see again
everybody.
soon.